Well, it's day number 2 of the week, and of course, the month of January is marching on. My name is Benjamin Akakbo. This is the AM Show. Thank you for joining us this morning over these next 4 hours. And here's what you can expect: the news, followed by the news review. And we're joined by the NDC's parliamentary candidate for South Tone, Maxwell Lukuto. He will be our guest. And from there, we head into sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. And then we get into our big stories. Today, we continue our conversation on what government should focus on this year. It's a series we started yesterday. Yesterday, we dilated on the economy. Today, we focus on education. No country thrives without it. Free SHS, for example. How do we make it better? How do we tighten the screw? We'll look at basic and tertiary education. What should be done in all these spheres? Join us for that all-encompassing conversation right here on the AM Show. Again, what does the clergy expect from our political leaders as we get ready for another electoral season? Of course, we have the Christian Council, the Peace Council. All of them will be talking in the run-up to the elections. But what are they looking forward to? We'll be hosting Reverend Dr. Kwabena Oponu Frimpong, and he is leader of the Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa and a former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. He'll be joining us for that conversation. Again, what is the show without you having your say? It was great yesterday having you share your thoughts on sanitation and more. Today, we shall activate the phone lines once more to hear from you on what your expectations are of government and of the year 2024. So stick and stay. Have a good time with us. Up next, the news. Welcome on the news belt of the AM Show. Now in our first story, the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Albert Kwabena Jumfor, is asking the Attorney General, the governing New Patriotic Party, and the police to prosecute persons who assaulted Cape Coast-based radio station Cape FM representatives. Now, speaking at a news conference, Mr. Jumfor indicated that the interpretation of the laws governing press freedom were somewhat biased. He believes the appropriate authorities should ensure the right things are done to ensure an incident-free election.
Very importantly, we raise issues and exercise our displeasure on the use of two obnoxious laws, which seems to criminalize free speech, which are merely defamatory and can be dealt with under the civil remedies. For the avoidance of doubt, we are referring to Section 76 of the Electronic Communications Act, 2008, Act 775, and similarly, Section 208 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act, Act 1960, Act 29. We are very much aware that once these laws remains in our book, the law enforcement agencies will continue to use them against us by applying them on us, especially during this election year, which is going to be a test on our enviable democracy. We are therefore, by this pressure, calling on the government, especially the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, to take steps by initiating a process to repeal these obnoxious laws. We recognize that the media and journalists can sometimes be reckless and unprofessional to the extent of publishing false and defamatory stories. Fortunately, the laws of the country provide aggrieved entities with remedies for civil actions against citizens, journalists, and media organizations. It is regrettable, therefore, that repressive sections of the Electronic Communications Act and the Criminal and Other Offences Act 1960, Act 29, are being weaponized to muzzle free speech under the current government. We make the following demands. 1. The NPP at the regional and national levels must investigate the matter immediately and identify the culprits. 2. The NPP at the regional and national levels must sanction the perpetrators of the assault on David. 3. The Ghana Police Service should investigate the incident immediately and speedily in order to prosecute the culprit. 4. The Ghana Police Service should investigate and identify the purported police officer who invited David before he was assaulted and bring him to face sanctions for unprofessional conduct. We hereby serve notice that if by close of Friday, January 12, 2024, these demands have not been met, we shall advise ourselves accordingly. Colleagues, it is unfortunate that we have begun the year on this barbaric note. But as we have already served notice, we shall fight back with every weapon we can marshal in our industry to repair the attacks on journalists as we go into election 2024. And we can assure the evil plotters and doers that they cannot fight the media and win. We want to assure the media fraternity that we shall continue to defend their interests at all costs. This year, we shall continue our campaign against the obnoxious law used for criminal prosecution of free speech. We know they will be used as part of the strategy to silence the media, but we shall resist them with all force. If the system fails to protect us, we shall protect ourselves.
Now, a youth group affiliated to the governing New Patriotic Party in the Asin South constituency is appealing to the party not to make the mistake of disqualifying anyone who contests incumbent Member of Parliament, Reverend John Ntim Fodjo. According to the group, any move to make the incumbent MP go unopposed will lead to serious cracks in the party that will make them lose the seat. Spokesperson for the group, Ebenezer Krang, has been addressing a news conference.
Aspirants eagerly await the outcome of their vetting. We have noticed some discrepancies that require immediate attention, and that is crafted in the Akan language. And I quote, "Ahunubi penti na boasrewa jine bagra no we ne nia tonchen." Unquote. It has come to our attention that both aspirants on January 5 successfully went through the vetting process at the regional office in Cape Coast. Yet the results were not declared at the regional level. The reason is not yet known. Furthermore, the crucial process of balloting was not conducted, leaving aspirants and their supporters in a state of uncertainty and confusion. As it said that coming events cast their own shadows of them, and being guided by the experience of the past, one has to tread cautiously to avoid a repetition of yesterday's mistake. We know why we are saying this, because we are all witnesses of what happened in 2020 election, where undue tension were subjected to Asin South District. And the repercussions were enough for us to bear. We believe that fairness and transparency are the cornerstones of a democratic society. And we all know that in democracy, the people are given options to choose. So it is therefore imperative that these principles are upheld throughout the entire electoral process. The MPP has always prided itself on being a party that values integrity, inclusivity, and equal opportunities for all its members. Therefore, we urge the authorities to ensure these values are upheld in the current vetting process. We understand that the decision makers in the MPP have a challenging task at hand, but we implore them to consider the aspirations and dreams of the candidates who have dedicated their time, effort, and resources to serve the people of Asin South. It is crucial that the outcome of the vetting process is fair and transparent, leaving no room for doubts or speculations, so that whoever that emerges as the winner in the upcoming parliamentary primaries will get the full support of all.
Now, health authorities in the Bono East Enclave are worried about the increasing number of new HIV infections across the region's urban areas. Regional Director of Health, Dr. Fred Adomaku-Boateng, says the region's urban population recorded an average of 4.8 HIV prevalence, a figure above the national average of 2.8. He wants Ghanaians to adhere to the various preventive measures, as well as know their status as the region works towards reducing its HIV prevalence. Anas Abid has more.
Human immunodeficiency virus is a serious public health problem and a major cause of death in many parts of Africa, including Ghana, which has one of the highest rates of HIV in the West African sub-region. The Ghana AIDS Commission recently disclosed that out of a total of 16,574 new HIV infections recorded in the year 2022, females accounted for 2/3 of the total figure, and the Brong Ahafo enclave continued to be one of the regions with highest rate of HIV prevalence. Health authorities in the region are however concerned about the rise in the number of new infections in the region's urban areas, which is doing an average of more than 4.5 compared to the national average of 2.8. Dr. Fred Adomaku-Boateng is the Regional Director of Health Services.
When we talk about HIV, we know the figures going around, latest figures released by the Commission. So, for example, we can talk about the rural-urban divide, which is very important. So, if you look across the country and you look at the mean or the prevalence of people with HIV, in terms of the rural population, we are doing very well. However, when it comes to the urban, it's not the same. So if you are looking at an average of urban across the country of 2.6, 2.8, Bunais, we are first and third. And this first and third is not something that we have to address. So you have Nkranza hovering around 5, and then more than 5, and you have the Chiman hovering more than 4.8.
The situation, according to Dr. Fred Adomaku-Boateng, is being fueled by the commercial nature of the Chiman and Nkranza, which are both located at the heart of the country.
These are being our challenges and we know the reason. You have a lot of trunk routes coming to Techiman. You have almost everybody passing, our brothers almost across coming to Techiman. It's very powerful commercial area where you have all activities going on.
Dr. Fred Adomaku-Boateng is, however, urging the general public to work towards knowing their statuses as well as adhere to the use of condom as the region works towards addressing its HIV/AIDS prevalence rate.
The moment you get into that state and you are testing, then you start using this cliche that a test doesn't know any dirty water. Please, when it comes to HIV/AIDS, there are some dirty waters that you don't have to venture. And so the try and tested methods that should also use that. Look, if you don't know it's not a stable partner, these try and tested methods should also be used. Condoms. You have to make sure that you use condoms. And then more importantly, make sure that we know our status. That is what we are going to look at going 2024. And our target and our aim is that everybody should be able to know your status. Everybody should know. It's a campaign that we are going to go massively on that when it comes to HIV.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Techiman.
In our next story, the director of the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, Professor Dorothy Yeboah-Menu, is stressing the importance of extracurricular activities for personal growth and development. Speaking at the second Nyansapo Dialogue series organized by the Advancement and Alumni Relations Office of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, she indicated it was also crucial for career success.
The extracurricular activities are also very important, and so please don't take them like, oh, I'm here, I'm coming to do medicine. When I finish with medicine, I am done. That is not done, because you are going to work with people. So you need to use this place as a place to develop your people skills. There are a lot of things that you can do. He mentioned ISEC, I mentioned even within the Christian fellowships. There are so many programs that you can learn that may be useful for you after school. And thankfully, Uncle Elliot told you he met his wife here. You may also meet your partner here through such interactions. So please be interested in your academic year, but make good time to also do other things which will shape you in the future. So don't just be a bookworm, please.
Professor Yeboah Menu joined other personalities like CEO of City FM and City TV, Samuel Atamensa, actress Nikki Samonas, and CEO of Smartline Publishing Limited, Elliot Ajare. Mr. Samuel Atamensa, who read BSc Computer Science, was also emphatic on the need to sacrifice for maximum results.
It's not about being a CEO. It's about selflessness. Selflessness, service, hard work. Okay? Since I started my adult life, I have never ever seen nor read anywhere that somebody has been awarded for oversleeping. A little bit of sleep, a little bit of slumber. And what? And your poverty will come like an armed man.
Nikki Samonas, who found herself at the College of Arts and Social Sciences, took the students through how like-minded colleagues helped her cope with daily struggles.
I need to build the relationships, and then you may never know how it spans out. So I believe that if you hold it well and you're business-minded, the friends that resonates with you business-mindedly, like with him, you generate something from there. Those people who are the church people, spiritual people, you generate it from there. The lovers still will end up getting married. Yes. And then that's how it helps. So just keep communication and make sure that you hold your friendships dearly.
With the exploits in the technology world, Mr. Elliot Ajare urged the students to leverage the opportunities available to build fortune. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Now, a non-profit organization, News Now GH Foundation, is working to alleviate the plight of widows and orphans across the country. Leaders of the group say they are committing resources that will financially elevate such persons. Co-team lead Emmanuel Asante spoke after donating to one such groups in the Afajato South District of the Volta region.
It was a shared exhibition of love and affection when members of News Now GH Foundation stormed the Have community of the Afajato South District in the Volta region. It was an emotional moment for these widows and orphans who were gifted clothing, shoes, textiles and bags of rice, among others, to help lessen the hardship they go through. Emmanuel Asante is the co-chief executive officer of News Now GH Foundation.
We have a common WhatsApp groups. We have about 300 WhatsApp groups, of which we have members in it. When there's an issue, we just share it in the WhatsApp group and ask for members to support us. The letter that we get from the group, myself and then my colleague will add to it and we go and make the donation through it. Because there are some places you go and you look at the faces of the people who are receiving the items and you know that you are doing good. It's been God from day one and we hope we can continue doing more.
The relevance in extending support to people in need, it's something biblical, something that is expected of every man. I don't think that you should be having 1 billion in your account and looking at the poverty gap in Ghana. You go to some deprived communities, 1 cedi, 2 cedi for somebody to eat is a problem. So I feel like, no, I don't need to be hoarding funds in my accounts for people to be starving. So it's something I should be doing, yeah.
The Afajato South parliamentary candidate for the National Democratic Congress, Frank Afiye, promised to commit to the welfare of his constituents.
We are exceedingly grateful and profoundly appreciate their gesture. We stand shoulder to shoulder with these people, and our presence here is to register that we have become partners in development, and I pledge on my honor that going forward we will do a lot in common in order to bring more smiles on the faces of our compatriots.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Have.
And that's the note on which we end the news this morning. But stay with us. Up next, the news review. We're joined by the NDC's parliamentary candidate for South Tone, Maxwell Lukuto. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to get into the newspapers. At least we have a few today. And we're on a bit of a newspaper diet, is because the newspapers are still coming back to life post the festivities. But before I introduce my guest, before I bring him in, we all know this segment is always brought to us courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, how about starting the year on a healthy note? If you've not been getting yourself checked, it's like using your car all the time without checking on your brakes, without checking on your spark plugs, without checking on your engine oil, without checking on your whatever, lubricants, among others. If you don't, someday you could be moving with your car and it simply comes to a halt, a grinding halt. It's the same way our bodies are. And that is why regular checkups or maintenance in terms of the cars is what we all ought to stick to. And that is why I'm proffering for you this morning Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. I always say this. I'm coming to know a number of people, and it's common with women. We often take it for granted, but just as with eyesight, practically everybody has eye problems. It may not develop to the point where you need glasses like I do. These are not just for fashion. They actually they are medicated, okay? Same way with women. Practically all of you may have the tendency of developing fibroids or may develop them. They may just not develop to the point where they become a problem or you may need surgery. So why risk it? If you're a woman as well, fertility screening, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic for free. And here's where you can locate them. Here in the crowd, they are at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji Estate. There's Tema Community 22. Techiman Hanswa and Siama and Zima. If you'd like to reach them on phone, these are the numbers. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review, and joining us, the NDC's parliamentary candidate for South Toll, Maxwell Lukuto, is our guest. Max, good morning and Happy New Year.
Good morning, many happy returns. I sent you a message, I called you, you never responded. I guess you were so busy.
You sent me a message and called me?
Yes.
When was this?
Oh, during the youth time. I realized you were busily enjoying yourself, so.
I don't know about busily enjoying myself, but I've had a few people say, though, now that you mentioned, that they called me when I saw no call. Honestly. I've had a handful of people say they tried reaching me. I've not seen your message, but a call, I don't know whether I got. A few people said they had called me when, in fact, I had received no call. So I don't know whether it was network challenges, but I'll be sure to get back to you now that you've mentioned it, at least on the message. I got a ton of messages during the festivities. So my sincere apologies. Fachame, why?
You're a big man, so it's understandable.
Oh, please. I always try to respond to my messages, but sometimes it's just too many. Anyway, good to have you. My sincere apologies for that. Good to have you on board. Happy New Year. I hope the year has started well from your end. Are you in your constituency?
Yeah, I was in Accra on Sunday and Monday for a series of engagement with party stalwarts. I'm back to the constituency late last night, and I woke up this morning in my constituency. And all seems well. Party activities, yes, we are expecting GM on Thursday in the constituency. He will be passing through. That will be the first point of call in the Volta region. From here, he will be going to Tegbi, to Aplau, to Joje. That's the first day. And the second day, we will have other engagement in Ho and Gogwe. It's all about the 24-hour economy that he's bringing on board. And I think that the fever is catching up. And so everybody should come on board. Let's support John Dramani Mahama for the 2024 December 7th election. Next year, by this time, he would have been sworn in as the president of Ghana. And that's what most Ghanaians are looking out for. A lot of research and this thing has proven that he's actually on the path to winning. The last one was about 53%, and that's a good one. And so we pray and hope that the understanding and the fever catches up with all of us, and we make sure that we make him the next president of Ghana.
That is also interesting because I think on the 7th day of this month, I saw a flyer from the Baumia camp suggesting that for them, it was 1 year to the swearing in of Dr. Baumia as president of Ghana. It's interesting how both sides are playing it, but the voters in the end will determine who becomes president. I heard, on Constitution Day when Mr. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo addressed the country, he was speaking about free and fair elections and that whoever lost should concede to whoever won. One thing that was of interest to me, he made mention of the fact that the former president, John Dramani Mahama, who is contesting in this election, on a jovial note, had still not conceded to him in the past election. Of course, it boils down to, again, whether the aggrieved party who went to court actually felt that he had lost the election, though the court ruled that the NDC did not have sufficient grounds to claim the election had been compromised in any way. But with all that tone, how does that make your end feel about the Electoral Commission and some of the latest developments? I don't know what their position is currently because the indelible ink matter that we've spoken about, I believe, before, that it can only add to the layer of protection when it comes to our voting cycle, among other bits. And is the NDC going back to IPAC? What responses can you give me on that? How much confidence does the NDC have in the Electoral Commission?
Yeah, sure. We are going back to IPAC. We are not too confident about who they are based on what we have known.
Maxwell, I think I'm struggling to hear you a bit. I think we'll try our volume here in the studio to find out whether it's any better. So let's start this again. Please go ahead.
All right. So are you good? Are you okay?
It's better, much better. Thank you.
It's better. Okay. So like I'm saying, they are posturing from the past up to now does not give us any confidence in who they are. The EC chair has made herself an appendage, and then like they together with Bosman and other people show themselves as card-bearing members of the MPP, but their deeds, their actions, and their words, you can't be too sure that they are independent.
Wait. While I have posed the question, I must also be fair to them and not allow you to just come and lambast them. I was asking about the electoral process and the things they've put in place. But if you want to target them, personally, you're saying they are card-bearing members of the MPP. Do you have any evidence to adduce to that effect?
I said they are posturing. Makes it look like they are card-bearing members of the MPP. Their speech, the way they speak, and all other things that is attributable to them, makes it look as if they are MPP apparatus, even though we expect them to be independent arbiters. And so for me, going forward, it's their deeds and their actions that will make the generality of Ghanaians.
Hello, Maxwell. It appears the connection to Maxwell has been lost. It's been truncated. We'll try to work the connection to get him back so that he can make his point there. But I'd love to hear from you as well. Just shoot me a message via the live stream on Joy News currently. Let me know what you think. In fact, the question simply is, how much confidence, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much confidence do you have in the Electoral Commission to deliver a free and fair election without, too much compromise in 2024? How much faith do you have in the Electoral Commission to deliver a free and fair election, presidential, parliamentary, in 2024? You can shoot me a message via the live stream on Joy News on Facebook. Let me know what your thoughts are. And when we get Maxwell back, I will have him continue on that trajectory. Let me just try once again. Maxwell, can you hear me? All right. We're trying to reconnect with Maxwell. We'll try to get him back, and then we'll take it from there. But the newspapers we have this morning, I'll start from there before we're joined by Maxwell one more time. Protects Constitution by ensuring peaceful and transparent election. That's according to the NCCE. Protect Constitution by ensuring peaceful and transparent election. Of course, we're talking about 2024. That's according to the NCCE. Yesterday, my good friend Kathleen Addy spoke at length on this matter and others. Unsuccessful election petitions should attract sanctions. That's according to Dr. Afari Jan, suggesting that unsuccessful election petitions should attract sanctions. In other words, you shouldn't just come up and put forth a petition and create a certain picture if you know that, in fact, you have lost the election. Constitution Day celebration. Don't overhaul Constitution. Strengthen public institutions. That's according to the Attorney General. I have my different opinions on this matter. GES harmonizes code of conduct for pre-tertiary schools, and ADB shareholders approve 2 billion Ghana cedi capital injection. On the back page, Veterans Court support for members, and Ibuakwa North Assembly supports PWDs with startup items. So let's start from the start. Do we have Maxwell back? If not, I get straight into the papers. All right. So let's start from the start. Constitution Day celebration. Don't overhaul Constitution. Strengthen public institutions. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfrey Adame, has opposed calls for an extensive overhaul of the 1992 Constitution. In an exclusive interview with the Daily Graphic to share his views on whether there was the need for a review of the Constitution as well as the Constitution Day celebration, he described the 1992 Constitution as one of the best in the world that possessed all the elements of a good Constitution. The Constitution, he stressed, had a solid foundation with values and principles that met international standards and had, over the past 31 years, entrenched and promoted democracy, human rights, and constitutionalism in the country. Quoting him, he said, "Our Constitution is quite strong in terms of the establishment of institutions to deliver a sound economic and social life," Mr. Dame said. He further posited that any call for a complete review of the Constitution or a new Constitution ought to be subjected to critical thinking to determine whether the highest law of the land had measured up to international standards or served the country well. Now, as much as I agree with him to a certain extent, maybe a wholesale overhaul of the Constitution might not be in the best interest of the country. But a large portion, I feel, of the Constitution. Look, for example, at the problems we've had with Daniel Yaw-Domelevo. Not we, the people, but this administration had with him, and the impediments that were put in his way. In terms of his work, when you read that section on the Auditor General and his or her powers and everything in between, I mean, it took Domelevo to come and start implementing part of what the law had sanctioned, okay? Surcharging and all of that. Now we see a bit of that with the current Auditor General. You can look at some of the wide powers that are given the president. He's appointing X, Y, Z, A, B, C, everybody. Heads of state-owned institutions. Heads of different agencies. He's appointing the ministers. He's appointing DCEs. He's appointing the head of the IGP. The powers of the president are overweening, overbearing. And I dare say, because power is sweet, like Lord Acton will say, and that's famous aphorism, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The more power one has, and that is why some people will also say that these powers, both the NDC and the MPP, who have tasted power, would want to retain the Constitution as it is, though I do know that the former President John Dramani Mahama has spoken about, amending the Constitution. And going back to some of the things that in 2010, the Constitutional Review Commission brought to bear, which the white paper of which we poo-pooed, we threw somewhere. It's still gathering dust. But I posit that those who have ruled in this country also want the Constitution to remain the way it is because it favors them. And one crucial example is what I've just spoken about. The wide powers that it gives to a president. It does not make any sense. I'm saying it here and now. It makes no sense to have one person with such wide powers. That is why we keep having a conflict with, is the police service being induced by the executive? Because they are part of the executive arm of government. Is there interference in the work? If we have people who are appointed through other means, then we can rely on them. Well, even if they are partisan, or even if they are political, hopefully they are not partisan, but even if they are political, which every person practically is, they would not be under that pressure to please, because you are not the appointor, you are not the appointing authority. Does that not make sense? So, while I agree to a certain extent with what Godfred Yabuadame is saying, I also disagree with him to a large extent on some of these. I feel there are so many things in our Constitution that ought to be given a second look. Really. To make our country better. Now, finally, he also talks about institutions. I'm just looking for that part. He makes mention of institutions. Our Constitution is quite strong in terms of the establishment of the institutions to deliver a sound economic and social life. I'll go back to what President Barack Hussein Obama said when he was in Ghana. We don't need strong men. We need strong institutions. We are partly where we are because our institutions have failed. Many of them have failed and continue to fail. Because in the United States, let's look at this example. There are presidents who have come all the way from the days of Ronald Reagan and JFK to Trump, who would have wanted to do certain things but couldn't get away with it because of solid, sound institutions. In the last election, when there was that assault on the Capitol, the Capitol building, why is it that, for example, President Trump wanted his own vice, Mike Pence, to signal that he had won the election, yet Mike Pence stuck to the script of the Constitution and went ahead and gave the final, appended the signature so that Joe Biden could be declared winner of the election? That is what you call sound institutions. The institutions work regardless of who is in power. The institutions fetter you. Okay? They bind you. In our country, it's not that way. Institutions don't work. By and large, they don't work. I'll even shudder to say that institutions work to maybe even 45% capacity. They don't. And so I disagree with you, Mr. Dame, on that point. I feel our institutions need a proper overhaul, and that could also come by way of the Constitution. So while I'm not saying all you're saying is baseless, no, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that there are so many things that require a second look in our 1992 Constitution. Desperately. Maxwell Lukuto, welcome back. Hello, Maxwell, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. You were making a brief point on the Electoral Commission. If you could, because we've lost you for a while, we've lost time. So briefly on that, and let me know what your thoughts are about overhauling the 1992 Constitution. Do you think it should be a minimal look or a complete overhaul? Where do you stand on that? On these 2 points, very quickly, Maxwell.
Yeah, I don't think there should be a complete overhaul. There are some few things that we have to look at, like the elders of society have pointed out to some few of them. Afarijan has pointed to some few of them, the Constitution, and then the work of the advisory committee to the president. That's the Council of State.
Right.
What they are supposed to be doing, whether they are supposed to be giving report. People spoke about this asset declaration, how it is done, whether it is so transparent that people can walk in there and see what is there and all other things. And even the EC itself, like I was talking about, you said the institutions don't work. Yes, I agree with you. Look at the last limited registration exercise we did. Instead of them taking it to the electoral areas like it used to be, they decided to centralize it at the district headquarters. And the trouble political parties had to go through to get these things done, as if the process was rather for them. And people sit down and behave as if they are doing a favor to somebody. Meanwhile, you are being paid for the job you are doing, and they are laid down rules and responsibilities for you to undertake. But people shudder to do these things, and they behave as if they are a demigod and they are doing you a favor. So for me, the institutions are not working. We need to keep up enthusiasm in that. Look at the way the police service behave as if they are still a police force. They go brutalizing everybody and anybody. Look at the journalist who was attacked in a Jumago or so yesterday over the weekend. A police officer invited him over, wanted to interrogate him, and tasked him to pounce on him and beat him to pulp. And the Minister of Fisheries, Hawa Kumsi, was there. As for her and her stories, I don't want to be talking about.
Yes, but please, let's be careful about that, because the Minister of Fisheries and member of Parliament for the Ewutu Senya East constituency, that is Mavis Hawa Kumsin, has debunked any claims that she was behind the attack. I was actually going to bring up the matter for discussion, but let's be careful how we tread, because she has debunked, unless we have evidence to adduce to that effect, she has debunked any claims that she was behind the attack or that she orchestrated the attack. Please go ahead.
Now, is it about her being behind or her boys went to beat a journalist?
Well, if her boys do, the suggestion probably would be that she would be in the know. She's saying she was not in the know. She had no hand in it. Until we adduce evidence to that effect.
There is no way I can tell whether she's in the know or not in the know. All I know is that her boys
precisely so, Maxwell. Precisely because we cannot tell for sure is why I'm just guiding you that you should watch how you go about saying this. But you can go ahead. Go ahead.
And Ben, this is not the first time. This is not the first time we are hearing how Akumsi involved in issues of this nature, shooting discriminately and all these other attacks. So for me, this is not the first time. That's a stock in trade. And so we are only referring to what she used to do or what she's used to doing. So some of these things, let's watch them and bring people to where they belong. People behave as if they are above the Constitution. And so for me, let us look at these things critically and see how we can review some of the institutions we have and what they are supposed to be giving to us as way of service. Yes, so I agree that the institutions should be looked at, part of the Constitution should be reviewed, looked at critically. It's over a long time that we have been talking about whether this should be reviewed or not reviewed. And a lot of proponents say that there are aspects of it that we will have to take a real look at. For instance, the percentage of ministers that has to be appointed from Parliament, whether they are supposed to be a check on government or they are supposed to be collaborators with government, is another matter that people keep talking about. And the earlier we look at these things, the better it will work for the good for Ghana. If not, we'll just be musical chairs dancing around the problem and not nailing it to the core. So for me, yes, it's time we have to do it.
All right. Interestingly, though, it is, of course, that had to do with the parliamentary primaries of the MPP. It is her own contemporaries or those contesting her who made the allegation that it was her people who were behind this assault. Of course, they would still have to come and prove that assault on Mr. David Kobina. And what was meted out to him, he was slapped many times, pummeled, kicked repeatedly in the abdomen, ribs and chest, as well as the belly by irate supporters who numbered more than 8. We've heard the GJA president speak to the issues, and I believe it is high time the MPP did more rather than just release statements, the information minister among others. And even at some point, we've had cause to be dissatisfied with some of the statements from the information ministry. But these kinds of assaults, we've entered an electoral year. It's only January and we've started assaulting journalists. We need to put our foot down and not decry it later in the year when our metrics fall when it comes to freedom of speech, when it comes to human rights, when it comes to, the practice of journalism, among others. Then people will say, oh, we're not being treated fairly. It is January and we've already started assaulting journalists. So the talk, we can talk. But how about the walk? How about ensuring the safety? Just a few months ago, someone was sitting in a station, UTV, remember, a full-scale attack because supposedly some political elements from the MPP side felt, someone A+ among others were, when will we get it in our heads that this is a civil issue? If you feel a journalist has done anything, there are court procedures. You can take them through. If you feel you've been, slandered, defamed, whatever it may be, there are processes. Why not go through them? And I feel the media houses should also become more strong when it comes to security so that if such thugs come around and they themselves get a beating, maybe they will think twice. I'm not fostering violence, but if these people feel over time, we've had some of them we've had even people of the cloth, so-called pastors, lead teams to go to radio stations, TV stations, armed men. When will it stop? When will the nonsense stop?
Yeah, so like I'm saying, let's make our institutions work. How Akumsi admitted to making a shootout one point in her life when she went to her constituency and there was some kind of riot. What happened to her? She was let loose. Nothing happened to her. 8 people were killed during our 2020 election. Up to now, the president has not coughed. He has not said anything about it. What happened to the police officers and the military people who were engaged in the shooting and the killing of innocent citizens just because of an election. So for me, these things are becoming one too many. And for me, the David issue, a police officer invited you out to have a word with you. All of a sudden, people came to beat him to pulp. And nobody would say anything, and nobody would take any action. What kind of society are we building for ourselves? Just because it is our Kumsin or something about her, because she was discussed on radio, for which reason she has to go looking for whoever made a discussion about her to beat or whatever. It's becoming nauseating to listen to these stories every day, and it's becoming so bad. Nana Addo should put his feet down and make sure that the Ghana that was handed over to him, he keeps it safe and sound to hand over to somebody else. January 2025. It's becoming one too many.
Let me acknowledge a few of those who have sent in comments. Sejifa Stephen Sito says, good morning to Honorable Maxwell Lukuto. You're calling him Honorable already. I'm not one for titles, but anyway, it's fine. Always refreshing listening to his analysis. Nanasafu Kantanka says, good morning, Ben. I'm watching you live from Asante Mampon. Tell Maxwell Lukuto that he should wake up from his slumber if he dreams that JDM is coming back. JDM never again to the Jubilee House. That's what Nanasafu Kantanka says. Wosobo Tanko says, for the Ghana EC, I'll grade them 2 out of 10 in terms of confidence in them. This one says, King Harrison Sr. says, good morning. I'm Harrison from Asamankesi. The NDC should leave the EC at the moment and focus on their campaign message. If it is that they will win the election, the EC can never block them. All right. So those are some messages that have been sent through. Let's wrap with a daily graphic on these 3 stories very quickly. I'll take all of them and get your quick reactions, Maxwell. Judgment must lead to orderly development of nation. President to judges. And, okay, no, that's not the story I wanted to do. Protect Constitution by ensuring peaceful, transparent election. That's actually the first one I wanted to do. The National Commission for Civic Education has called on the citizens to protect the 1992 Constitution by playing active roles to ensure that this year's elections are free, fair, transparent, and devoid of violence. The chairperson of the commission, Kathleen Addy, who made the call, said the December 7, 2024 polls were an opportunity for the people to once more demonstrate political maturity to consolidate the nation's democracy. Quoting her, she says, the upcoming election should not break Ghana, it should make Ghana. The 2024 election is a test case for tribal, ethnic, and religious tolerance in the country, and politicians must learn to stay within the agenda of peace and tolerance as well as patriotism, she added. Then, let's uphold nation's democracy. John Mahama says so, of course, tied to that bit about the elections. But then there is this one. Dr. Afari-Jan, former Electoral Commission chair. Unsuccessful election petition should attract sanctions. Now, a former chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Kwejo Afari-Jan, has suggested that electoral petitions that did not succeed should attract sanctions. And we've seen the MPP and the NDC not succeed with some of these petitions. That, he said, was to prevent election petitions from becoming a wanton fashion. He said it appeared that some candidates rushed to the court with election petitions alleging manipulation of results, primarily to placate their financiers and supporters. We know the story to that. And finally, debt overhang cause of poor economic growth. That's according to Dr. Richmond Echiahene. We all know him, a banking expert, and he's saying that because of our debt overhang, it's going to affect economic growth. And we've borrowed and borrowed and borrowed. Little surprise. So those stories, protect Constitution by ensuring peaceful, transparent election. Then there's also, if you petition and you don't win, it should attract sanctions for the political parties and our economy as well. Any quick thoughts there, Maxwell?
Yeah, sure. So Afari-Jan has always been on point. I would agree and disagree with him on the point of sanctions. We are looking at the other angle of it, where people are stifled from going ahead to go and seek redress in the cause, and they would rather want to take to violence on the streets and other things. I am sure that in the bid to curb some of these things is the reason why we have allowed the courts to look into these matters. Of course, I don't know what level of sanction he may be asking for. Yes, I agree with him to a large extent that if you don't put in some sanctions, people can just wake up any day, any time, and go to court on election petitions, and they will go without serious cases but just want to disturb the system. Yes, So let's look at both ends of it and not put too much impediment on the way of people who feel aggrieved in one way or the other to want to test whatever it is in the court of law. So both ways, let's look at it and be sure that we don't get to the other side of it where violence would rather be what people prefer to want to undertake. Yeah, so the peace and tolerance that we need for Ghana going to the 2024 election is very paramount. That is why we all should watch the way we speak and the way we address the public about the things that we expect. I was blatantly disappointed in the defense minister when he was talking to his constituents some few days ago about a colleague who was, I think, disqualified from contesting him, and he was making some spurious comments saying that he's going to treat him the way he would treat NDC in the 2024 election. Some of those statements, people can read meanings into it. You, the defense minister, and you are talking just like that without any decorum and things like that. I think that people are becoming too pompous and they should be brought to where they belong. Who is Honorable Nitiwu? We all know him. His student days in, I think, Winneba, becoming an MP, changing to MPP and all those things. And because he's been made Minister for Defense for 8 years, he has all that bravado to talk as if all Ghanaians are under his feet. Some of these things, I think we should watch them. Because, of course, we in the NDC, we can also talk tough. And if he's only saying those things to put some level of fear in us, then he should be told that he's talking to the wrong group of people. Because we are a fearless group of people and we meet anybody at any point in time if that is what they think they want to bring on board. But for me, we are people of peace who speak the peace language, but people should be told when they cross the line that they can't continue to speak the way they speak because today there is some position of power. Yeah, no, some of those things should be condemned. And for me, let's begin to speak and condemn some of these things that come from ministers of state who we think. And the position of Minister of Defense is not a position for children. Yes, people have complained about him and whether he really qualifies to be there. He's been there for the past 7 or so years. So he should have overgrown the kind of youthful exuberance I saw him display the other day. So for me, let's talk to some of these people and make sure that we need them in the back. As for our debts, nobody wants to talk about them again. It is weighing on our necks so heavily that we can't even breathe. It's not giving us any space to do anything, but we have to think outside the box. Yes, we are in an election year. I'm not too sure what other things we are going to expect, but the Nanado and the Baumia that we know over the years, I'm sure they are still going to push things to want to break the so-called 8 they think they can break. They are breaking themselves at 8. It is clear, it is glaring. Every research and analysis shows that they are losing. But I'm sure that they are going to throw in their last by wanting to do more damage to the economy. But let all Ghanaians speak and say that this is the only Ghana we have. If they push us too much into debt, it will be so difficult for us to come out. So they should be measured in the things they do in this election year.
Right.
So that at the end of this year, they would hand over a peaceful and one peace Ghana to John Dramani Mahama come next year.
Okay, all right. Let's conclude with these stories. I'll do the Daily Guide and then the Economy Times. Then we can go. I am the masked man, Nakwame Bediako, a.k.a. Cheddar or Freedom Jacob Caesar, says. Feather for IGP Dampare, my colleague in the media, Kwame Adinkra, says so. Of course, we saw police prominence. We've seen it throughout this Yuletide. Even now, even recently, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, yes, 2 days ago, in many areas, you would see the police pretty prominent. So when they do things like this, yes, we support them. But when things like what happened at the Independence Square, where you've given someone permission to host an event, and then for whatever reason you say there's another event and no event happens, then those ones, we have cause to bash them. But there are also these stories. Support state-owned enterprises. ICU Ghana appeals. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union has appealed to social partners, especially the government, to support state-owned enterprises. And then ride-hailing companies to pay taxes. Ride-hailing companies such as Uber, Yango, and Bolt will be required to pay taxes in Ghana starting from January 2024. The Ghana Revenue Authority making the announcement highlighted the obligation for commercial vehicle owners to pay income tax on a quarterly basis as per Section 22 of Regulations 2016 LI 2244. And that is that. I guess we'll be paying taxes till we are into the ground and beyond. Economy Times, banks to unlock credit to private sector, local rice farmers record low patronage, and Mahama to restore Ghana's economy. You can pick about two of these and reflect quickly on them in less than a minute, Maxwell. We have to go.
It is about the overtaxing that you spoke about. We are being taxed until we get to the grave, and it's becoming one too many. These are the very people who said that they are going to move from taxation to production. I don't know what they are producing. The one factory, the one district, one factory that they touted that they're going to build and all over the country, I don't know what is happening to them. Every day, one task or the other, the bed task, the boat task, everybody. Very soon, I'm sure they are going to task us for briefing. And it's becoming one too many. This group of people are just talkers. They are not doers. So he spoke as if he was a messiah. He came to government and he has poorly performed. Nothing to show. Right. And he's going again for presidency. It's a shame. Now, this local rice farm, it's unfortunate that we still do a lot of import of rice. Meanwhile, there's so much glut in the rice, and then we can't even get people to buy.
But even under the NDC, you were still importing rice. You know that.
Oh, yeah, we're importing rice, but what quantities were you importing? It's about
so you can talk about quantity, but not necessarily that. We were importing rice under the NDC.
No, but my brother, I believe that at no point can we say that we are going to completely stop importing anything. There are times that we would import something because of the other issues that we all know about. We may not be able to immediately say that we have raised the capacity of our farmers to meet our demand for rice. Right. But of course, it's because we are not cutting down on some of this import. That is why their productions are not.
We have to go. Our time is up. We really have to go. But I'm grateful that you joined the conversation as always. It's always refreshing having you. Maxwell Lokoto is the NDC's parliamentary candidate for South Tong, and he joined the conversation. Now, right before we go, let me acknowledge Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Make your way to any of their branches here in the crowd. Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade Anaji Estate. There's Tema Community 22. There's Tichiman Hanswa and the Siamanzama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. The end to chronic disease. Sports is up next with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. On Monday, the Ghana Football Association organized a friendly match between the Black Stars and Namibia ahead of the African Cup of Nations to be staged in Côte d'Ivoire. It was a performance many Ghanaian journalists have described as drab, but head coach of the team, Chris Houghton, insists it was a game of two halves and also provided an update on the injury situation of Mohamed Kudus. He also revealed that Mohamed Salis is injured, as well as Antoine Semenyo ahead of Ghana's opening game in the African Cup of Nations against Cape Verde on Sunday.
Certainly a game of two halves. I think what was evident is that we were up against a team that's a lot of energy, very direct in the way that they play, 4-4-2, look to search behind, good runners behind, and around that what you have to be able to do is keep the ball well enough. And in a first half period, I thought our ball retention wasn't good enough, which made it difficult for us. In the times when we could change the play, which was when you've got a team that you're playing against in 4-4-2 narrow with high energy, then the travel of the ball has got to be quicker. So I didn't think we was good enough on the ball in the first half period. Second half, of course, better, but the game opens up. The game opens up, and I think we were able to capitalise then on the spaces, and then it becomes the job then to score goals. And of course, we entered the final third a lot more in the second half than what we did in the first half. But either perhaps a lack of quality at times saw us not get opportunities. I think you have to credit them. I think they defended very well in their moments. But we had to make more of the possession that we had, and particularly the possession we had in the final third. Yeah, so probably four with Iñaki. Iñaki had before he joined us. He joined us a touch later than we wanted to. He had an illness at home. He's fine now, but he's obviously missed a good period of training, and I think has only had 2 days training with us. Semenyo was ill yesterday. We thought he couldn't train yesterday. We were monitoring to see how he was today. There was no change today, so that excluded him from the game. Salis picked up a knock in training yesterday, which meant that he couldn't be involved in the squad today. And with Kudus, we've been in regular communication with him and his club. He does have an injury. He is recovering from that injury and will join us tomorrow.
Let's still stay with Chris Hughton, since taking over the Black Stars coaching job. Last year, the senior national team has produced what many have described as so-so performances, but he insists the team is ready for the African Cup of Nations.
I think as regards pressure going into a tournament, I think every coach, every head coach that takes a team into this tournament is under pressure. It's normal. It comes with the job. And I think as regards being ready, you never know. You never know if you are ready or not. You will know that when that first game comes, because I've been involved in teams and watched teams that haven't done particularly well, and when it comes to a first game of a tournament, all of a sudden their levels go up, and they can prove worthy winners. So I think you never know. All we can do is prepare the best way we can. It's of course never helpful when some players have to miss a period of training. You know, that's never helpful. But you know, we probably wouldn't be the only team that are in that position, and we have to make the most of what we have, and we have to ensure that we are ready come that first game of the season.
A chunk of the players going into the African Cup of Nations do not have tournament experience. That is a major challenge for Chris Hughton and his technical team. One person who has played in the African Cup of Nations is Lai Kinsinsi. He played in the 2002 as well as the 2006 and 2008 African Cup of Nations. He says that the Black Stars will struggle in this tournament. He also added that many fans are not happy with the senior national team because of the zigzag performances we've witnessed under Chris Hughton.
Ghanaians are not happy about the team because previous performances have not been, it's not gone well for us. But like you said, we are Ghana. You know, we are Ghana. You go. I always say that everywhere you go in this country, you find quality players in the country. But then again, you can have, one thing we should know is like a football team. It's a football team. So we need to have proper guidance to the players that we can guide them to achieve whatever the country wanted to achieve in terms of proper training camp, in terms of the technical team sending the right messages to them, the players getting used to the technical team. I know they went to camp very late, but most of the players that have made it to the final list, they've stayed with the technical team. So already the players know the technical team and the technical team know the players as well. So the state that they are in now, the main focus is game plan to our first game in Ivory Coast. I know it's going to be tough. It's not going to be it's not going to be easy for the team, but the most important thing is our first game. If you get it right, I think we'll have a smooth tournament.
If Ghana gets it right, Ghana will have a smooth tournament. One man who spearheaded the technical decisions of the Black Stars in its last tournament, that is the FIFA World Cup, is Otto Addo. He says that anything can happen in the competition, and Ghana stands a chance to be able to win the tournament.
So many good teams.
Yeah.
I think Mali is great, Egypt, Algeria, Morocco showed at the World Cup how good they are. And still you have Cameroon, Nigeria, Ivory Coast have a very good team. But, you know, anything can happen. And when we played against Nigeria, they also had Osimhen and Chukwueze and all these players, but still we managed to draw them and to qualify. So, you know, football is, and this is also the lovely part about football, because, you know, everything can happen. So like other sports where, you know, we know when this team will play this, they win. You know, but the football, anything can happen, and that makes this sport so beautiful. So for me, to give prediction, I'm hoping and praying that Ghana gets far, for sure. And I know that they have the talent to do it. But you also need luck in football. This is for sure. You know, sometimes it's just decides if the ball goes to a post inside or post outside. You know, so this can change the game. You know, so it's like I said before, very complex, and a lot of things are coming together. But like I said, I pray and hope that Ghana will get very, very far.
On March 8, 2024, the African Games will start in Ghana. Countries are expected, or participating countries are expected to start arriving on March 5. Well, the local organizing committee, chaired by Dr. Ofosu Asare, they have courted the support of the Black Stars so that they will throw their weight behind the local organizing committee and the event to make it a success. Captain of the senior national team, Andre Ayew, says that Ghana hosting the event is important because he believes that the country will be able to showcase its skills and talent to the rest of the world.
To be frank, on behalf of all the playing body, my teammates, the staff, I would like to say a big thank you to the LOC for coming here and giving us this kind words and these words of motivation, because it's very needed before we go into such tournament to have the support from anybody that's around football, especially to come to us and say this. I want to congratulate Ghana and also the LOC for having the opportunity to organize this All Africa Games 13th edition in our country. It's a great opportunity for us to showcase to all Africa what we can do, our organization skills, what we have, and everything that we can produce to Africa. And I believe that we are ready. As I see everyone standing, I see a good group, a great committee there to make everything work well. So we are going to do our best on the pitch, and we'll support all Ghanaians in this All Africa Games to take as maximum medals as possible. We wish everybody luck. We wish the committee and LOC good luck in the last days of organization. And we are going to go and prepare for what's waiting for us, which is massive. So thank you very much. And inshallah, for us, the ones going to the AFCON, and for you personally and all Ghanaians who are going to represent our nation in the All Africa Games, good luck, and may God bless all of us.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has constructed an hotel for the people of Nalergu. The sports complex, which is named after the late overlord king of the Mamprukwe Kingdom, Nasheruga, is expected to help and add talent in the area. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia commissioned the facility on Sunday and described it as the best yet he's seen.
First of all, I would like
to thank God for making this possible today. I believe, as always, that with God, everything is possible. I want to really thank Wembley Construction Limited and Mr. Coleman here, who has been the contractor on this project. I'm very, very impressed. This is one of the best astroturfs I've visited in this country, and I've visited a lot of astroturfs. And so I'm very happy with the work. The facilities are first class, and I just hope that we maintain them as such as we go forward. But I'm a happy man today, and I'm very impressed with the work that has been done. I think that it will be a facility that will help sports and particularly football in Nalergo Gambaga and its environs, and I hope that they will use it fully to get it done.
That's your show. For now, we do have more stories on myjoyonline.com. We appreciate your time.
A warm welcome back to you on the AM show. So we started yesterday focusing on the economy and what we should or we would like to see from government's end. Today we focus on education. Of course, there's basic education, there's free SHS, tertiary level education. What should be done in 2024? How can government give a boost, a shot on the arm to education this year? Well, joining us for that conversation, we have Dr. Peter Anti. He is Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies, and he joins us on this beat today as we investigate or interrogate what we can expect by way of education in 2024. Dr. Anti, a very good morning to you. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Ben. Many happy returns to all of us. May God make this year a very fruitful one.
Amen. So let's start with an overview, your overview of 2023 by way of education. You know that, we had many incidents in terms of education. Yes, STEM and some positive things done there. Then the WASSCE results, the BEC results, and the claim as far as the WASSCE results were concerned that they were the best we had in quite a number of years, about 5 years or so. But then the claim from the other side that what is the quality of, the students we are producing? And while they may be getting some of these grades, A1 to C6, when they move on to the next level, what comes to bear? In other words, what is the impact of the grades they are having? Does it show when they move on to the next level? We also looked at Ghana's schools of shame, some of these schools without, any concrete brick and mortar in, facilities, some under trees, some close to cemeteries like we've seen, others simply non-existent. So it's a tale of two cities, if you like. But what would be your general overview of 2023 as far as education is concerned in Ghana?
Thank you very much, Ben. And yes, I think that this is the last year of the government. Of course, there are two possibilities that they might have the opportunity to continue after December 7th, or a new government will take over. And even if they have the opportunity to continue, they might have a different person managing the affairs of the education sector, or the same person would continue. So I would be glad if we look at it from the perspective that we have had education delivered to us for the past 7 years, because this is the last year. So if we narrow ourselves to last year, you might not be able to get the full picture of how far we've come in terms of education delivery. So I would go a little bit further and then box all of them together, and with 2023, and then we will look at the focus, as you said, for the 2024. Now, you see that we're running an education system, And normally a system is supposed to have so many parts. So if you look at our education system, there are a lot of people, agents that come into play when you are running an education system. So you have the teachers, you have the school system, you have the resources that come into play when you are looking at the education system in terms of the resources that are used to deliver the education. You also have the regulatory bodies, agencies that are supposed to help you or assist you do those kind of supervision and other things that you're supposed to do. So in 2017, what we have done as a country, or this government did, was to tackle these various elements within the system. So you saw that there was a review of the curriculum. You look at the review from the basic level, basic 1 to 6. Then there was a review of the curriculum for GHS 1 to 3. This year, the curriculum for the senior high schools would come into would be introduced, or it will be implemented. So they tackled that. Aside that, they also looked at problems of access. So you saw the introduction of free senior high school. For the first time, capitation grant was increased from, I think, 4.7 Ghana cedis to 10 Ghana cedis, a very huge amount of money for the basic education sector. Again, you saw the introduction of various reforms at the teacher education front. So you saw NTC coming into force, the licensure issues coming in. What these things were supposed to do was to polish the teacher front to enable the delivery of education to help us get the expected outcomes. So the teachers' promotion process were also streamlined. If you look at that, the teachers' promotion process was streamlined. Now we saw more teachers just writing something like an aptitude test, and then you are promoted. Before that, you saw a lot of teachers complaining. Sometimes you wait for so many years before you are promoted. We saw the payment of something that they call the teacher motivation, professional allowance, which might not be enough, but that was done all in the effort to ensure that the teacher is put in a certain level so that he'll be able to deliver what he's supposed to do. There's a continuous encouragement for teachers to improve themselves. So you saw the introduction of CPDs in the various schools. You saw the introduction of teacher learning communities. All these are supposed to help the teacher build their capacity. Okay, we've seen the upgradement of our colleges of education from the diploma to the degree. Now they are doing 4 years, and then they are also giving these students a degree. So apart from dealing with the curriculum, the government have dealt with the teacher front. Again, the government has also dealt with the issue of school supervision and monitoring. So you saw NASIA coming, the National School Inspectorate Authority, coming out forcefully. We saw the rebranding of the circuit supervisors into what we call the CISOs, school inspectors. You have seen the improvement in STEM by building new modern classrooms, according to the minister, building modern classrooms. A lot of laboratories are being upgraded here and there. There's an attempt to also link education to technology. So you saw that particular unit or agency within the Ministry of Education, what we call the SENDLOS, doing a lot of things, offline processes to ensure that technology is integrated in our system. There were efforts to ensure that people are given the needed kind of education by providing the number of teachers that they are supposed to have. So these are some of the measures that have been carried out over the 7 years of this government in terms of its delivery of education. Now, another thing that we can also talk about, which still ties in with the education sector for 2023, is the introduction of a lot of legislation. So if you look at the education sector, so many legislations were introduced to enable the system run smoothly. We can also talk about the modernization of our assessment processes. Now, I'm just mentioning these things for us to know how far we've come. And then we would now delve into it and see whether we've been able to do all these things that really we have put in place, or how are we implementing them. So if you look at new assessment techniques that have been introduced, you can talk about the school-based assessment. Now students they write what they call CATs. You talk about school education assessment, what they're supposed to do at the district level. We, for the first time, introduced the NST, the National Standardized Test, which came with the introduction of the new curricula that have been implemented at the basic level. So these are things that have been done. And therefore, if you get to 2023 and you see a certain level of outcome, it might be linked to some of these things that have been done over the years. There was a problem with school leadership. So you saw the ministry collaborating with IEPA from UCC, Institute of Education Planning and Administration. And of course, the ministry have also set up what we call the National Education Leadership Institute, that is meant to train people in the education sector. Because you look at the process of somebody becoming a headmaster, it's just by going through the system. There's a difference between being an instructional leader or a curriculum expert and then being an administrator in terms of running schools. And that is the focus that the sector, the government have tried to address in terms of school monitoring and supervision. The managers of our schools should have specialized skills in school administration. And that is what has led to the introduction of the National Education Leadership Institute and the collaboration with the Institute for Education Planning and Administration. So this is an overview of our education sector from 2017 to 2023. Another big thing that has been done is the issue of tackling unemployment through TVET. Now, before then, you will see that we had a lot of these TVET institutions, some under the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, some under Social Welfare, some under the other agencies. Now, the government have brought all of them together, and we have the TVET services, just like we have the Ghana Education Service. Now we have the TVET services that is supposed to address the needs of technical and vocational education. The path for these people who pursue TVET education have also been streamlined. Those days you have to write about so many exams before you even move to level 1, level 2, and so on and so forth. These have been streamlined. So you go through the various technical and vocational institutes, you are able to enter the various technical universities. And that means that your path to growth have been shortened. This is a system that have been put in place to address the issue of unemployment that we have in the country. So a lot of efforts, and I just want us to understand that a lot of efforts have been carried out in the education sector, and that is what has resulted in some of the things that were experienced in 2023, including issues with WASI results and as you said, infrastructure challenges, which will be some of the things that we'll be talking about as we progress into 2024. So Ben, this is just an overview that I'm looking at. Now, if we look at this overview, then your question of what do we focus on as we enter 2024 would become very, very important. But before we even do that, there's a big challenge with basic education infrastructure. So you look at the map that I have, you can see on your screen, you will see that within the 4 years of data points that have been used to graph Ghana educational resource deprivation map, you will see that the recent one, which is this, the map on the last corner, seems to suggest that most of our basic schools have deteriorated in terms of their education resources. And in going into 2024, this is one of the biggest things that the government or the ministry should look at. They need to tighten the loose ends of the various policies and programs that they have implemented since 2017. And when I talk about the loose ends, you are looking at challenges with free SHS. You are looking at challenges with infrastructure. You are looking at challenges with basic education. You've increased capitation grants, but there's a problem with allocation. So in 2024, you don't think about implementing any new policy. What you do is that you consolidate the gains that you are making with free SHS by improving access, the gains that you are making with the TVET education, the gains that you are making with STEM education. You try to consolidate those gains. Then when you've done that, you also make sure that you do policy realignment. What do I mean by policy realignment? Now you want to improve teacher education. So you have set a certain standard for teacher education. You have introduced free SHS. A lot of people are going through the system. But at the colleges of education, what you are doing now is to introduce quota. That is policy incoherence, because these people who are coming from the free SHS needs to enter tertiary education institutions. Your tertiary education institutions are suffering with infrastructure challenges, and the colleges of education, you have restricted entry. So you have to now streamline that. You also have to think about your payment of allowances against the provision of infrastructure. That is policy incoherence. That is something that you have to sit down and then think through and see how best you'll be able to work. You'll be able to deal with it in order to achieve your aim of opening the system and allowing a lot of people to access tertiary education. At the same time, you have increased capitation grants, but you don't send the money there. You have introduced NASIA. You want to improve supervision and monitoring at the various districts and regional education offices, but they are resource constraints. The money to run the various district offices is not going. How do you now allow them to achieve your aim of improving monitoring and evaluation? So you tighten that loose end. You ensure that the resources are directed to these particular places. Again, you also have introduced teacher promotion process. You streamline it, but who cares about promotion without the requisite kind of payment? You promote teachers, and sometimes it takes a long while for them to even see the benefits of the promotion. That is not how you go about this. So you, in one breath, you have solved the problem of teacher delay in promotion, and that's leading to motivational problems with teachers. But on the other hand, these monies are not enough to even do anything for the teachers. You want teachers to engage in CPD programs. You want teachers to engage in communities of practice. How are you organizing these things? How are you motivating the teachers enough? They've told you that the money that you're paying them for the year is not enough. A lot of deductions comes into play. So at the end of the day, the money that is supposed to be used for their professional development does not it's not enough to do that particular kind of activity. So what do you do? Because you want the teacher to continuously upgrade himself or herself. So these are loose ends that any policymaker in 2024, bearing in mind that you might not be able to, you might not win the election, or you might win the election, there's a probability for that. These are the things that you do to strengthen the system and ensure that anybody that takes over from you is taking over a robust system that will be able to serve the needs of the Ghanaian population.
Okay, so some interesting dynamics you've brought to bear. If I asked you then to score this administration in terms of education over these last few years, you've done an analysis since 2017 all the way to 2023. But if I asked you, looking at the different strata of education, to give this administration a score, even before we break it down into the different components, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this administration in terms of education, not just education per se, but educational outcomes as well, the result of education? What would you give them?
Yeah, I agree with you. The essence of these policies is supposed to give us a specific lead to specific end. So you have to ensure that the students are performing well. apart from that, this investment is supposed to yield returns. So the investment should yield returns to the private individual, the one who is experiencing the education. The society itself needs to benefit from the investments that you are making. So some of the investment includes a reduction in crime rates, getting people to be more educated and literate so that they can participate in your governance process. You are able to reduce mortality rates and all those things. Those are the returns, the social returns of the investment that you are making in education. So in terms of outcome, I would say that we've not experienced so much the returns, whether private, social, we've not been able to really reap the returns of the investment that we are making in education. And why do I say that? A lot of people go to school, but still they do not. The unemployment rate is still on a high side. So people now tend to do their masters after their first degree, thinking that they will be able to secure something for themselves. But why do you go to school? You go to school that you'll be able to contribute your quota to the development of the country, and at the same time, you have a certain standard of living to be able to help yourself and that of your family. So in terms of outcomes, you cannot restrict that only to the performance in the various exams. And for that, I have even said that we still have to delve into that particular data and see what is really happening. So I would rate them, in terms of educational outcomes, around 4%. 4/10, so 40%.
So in terms of educational outcomes, 40% or 4/10. But in terms of the policies, in terms of what has been done, we can take free SHS, for example. In terms of policies, in terms of the direction when it comes to STEM, which you've made mention of, and now people talk a lot about STEAM with, the arts also in there. What would then be your score? So on the standpoint of outcomes, the results, you're giving them 4/10. But in terms of intent, policy, what would be your score?
That is where it becomes interesting, because if you look at the books, you would see that there are good intentions that have been put in place since 2017. And it only takes somebody who does not understand the education sector to say that we do not have enough policies. See, if we paid attention to our assessment framework, the National Pre-Tertiary Assessment Framework, we would not have the problem of chew, pour, and forget in our educational system ever again. The National Pre-Tertiary Assessment Framework that was designed and accompanied the standard-based curriculum, if we paid attention to it, we will not be talking about chew, pour, and forget. But what do we see? That is not what we are doing. Go through the assessment framework. How many teachers do give projects to students? How many teachers take anecdotal records? How many teachers observe students and based on the observation, score students? All we do is to do the class test. That is all we do, the pen and paper, but that is not what is in the assessment framework. Go to the standard-based curriculum and see the kind of things that we wanted our education system to be like in terms of teaching and learning within the classroom, the competencies that we wanted to build in terms of digital literacy, in terms of collaboration, and all those things. And ask yourself, the average Ghanaian teacher in our educational system, is if he is able to deliver that kind of curriculum as they are supposed to do. So in terms of policy, I will rate this government 8/10, 80%. There were good intentions, there are very nice documents that have been developed. Look at free SHS. Such a brilliant policy. You need a certain level of literacy within your population to ensure growth in your economy, because there's a direct linkage between education and economic growth. So whilst you are investing in education, you are investing in economy, you are improving your human capital base, and that will lead to improved economic growth. That is established empirically everywhere. But how are you implementing this? So if you allow people to access secondary education, and then you downplay on the quality variables within the school system, where classrooms do not have the needed desks, where teachers are not well motivated, where students in their dormitories are packed up. And I tell you, before then, we never heard of teachers we never heard of parents contributing money to pay for prepaid that is used in schools. And this is what is happening. Some parents are paying money to tar the dormitories of their walls. Some parents are contributing money to buy beds. And I say some of these things because I know most parents will not come and say it. I know that if they bring it out, some of the school authorities are going to be in trouble. But these are the mechanisms that have been put in place in schools to enable the headmasters and the school authorities run the school for your child, for my ward, to be comfortable. So if you have such a brilliant policy and you don't have a sustainable mechanism of financing the policy, your outcome will be less, but your intention would be scored high. And that is why, in terms of policy, in terms of intentions, in terms of the way we want to take education to, with the documents, with the laws and the legislation that have been passed and everything, we are on the right path. But with implementation, it's been a disaster.
Implementation has been a disaster. Since you've already, and I brought it up, but you've also gone down that road of free SHS, for example. When we started, when we're knocking on the doors of the IMF for a program or for them to accept our program, one of the things they spoke about was free SHS and its implementation. Are you of the school of thought that we should continue with the wholesale manner we've implemented it in, or we should have a side-by-side situation where those who can afford it get out of the system, and those who are given clearance, who fall below a certain line, are then put on that scheme so that we do not bleed unnecessarily in the financial sense? What is your take on that?
The truth of the matter is that in our system, if we have the resources, nobody would have a problem with a government decision to allow everybody to access secondary education if the government is willing and able to finance this particular policy. Because how much do we benefit from our system? A little. So if there's a lot of resources available, and that we know, nobody in economics know that the basic problem in economics is scarcity. And then because of scarcity, you need to make certain choices and ensure that everybody gets a bit and piece of whatever you have. And that is why when they were designing the program, if you look at the confidential policy document that never came to the public domain, the intention was to ensure equity. Equity in terms of supporting people to access education. And you say you want to do equity because you want to ensure that everybody gets something in terms of your support to these individuals. But when it came to the implementation, whatever reason that was, I don't know, they decided to implement the policy using the equality principle. And that is why from 2017, most of us, including myself, have said that we are not achieving equity because of the way we are implementing this. And we explain it in just a simple term, because you want to use education to bridge the gap of inequality. There are people who have money, they have the resources. These people are able to finance their wards education and then get them extra tuition and so on and so forth. There are people who do not have the resources at all. And these people would have to rely on the government to provide them with this kind of support system. If you put all of them on the same scale, you are still widening the gap of inequality, because the one who has got 10 Ghana cedis is giving an additional 10 Ghana cedis. The one who has got 0 is now giving only 10 Ghana cedis. That means that within the system, you have somebody who is now getting 10, but then you have widened the gap by an additional 10 you've given to the one who's already have some resources. And that is the social principle of most policy interventions. And that's why the World Bank was telling them that it is poorly targeted, because if you describe a policy as a social policy, you are supposed to look out for those marginalized, those downtrodden, those disadvantaged, and then you help and assist them to be able to come to the level of the advantage and those who are not marginalized. That is not what we are doing. We are just doing a wholesale implementation, wholesale financing, and because of that, it's brought a lot of burden on the government. And I say this because if the government has got a lot of finances available, it would not have been a problem. But anytime the government has problem with his finances, what you need to do is to now divert some of these monies to other places that needs equal attention. And in diverting, you have problems with feeding at the senior high school level. You have problem with infrastructure at the senior high school level, to the extent that now parents are supposed to buy beds for their walls. Parents are now buying tiles to tile their dormitories. Parents are now contributing money to pay for prepaid in order that the school will continuously be on the national grid. This is not how you run a policy that have a potential to transform the education sector. To transform the population of your country. You need to have additional revenue that will support the main one coming from government. That has been the conversation since 2017. Unfortunately, the people in government and those who have got the authority to do that think that if you try to do that, you destroy the political gains of the policy. And that is why they are not touching it. And that is why we are going to experience this. It's going to be difficult for any government who takes over from this government, in the case of a change in government, to touch the free senior high school policy, because a lot of people will come after them, and the mantra will be, we told you, and this is what is happening. For me, I think the financial model...
Would it be the right thing to touch free SHS? To touch, not in the sense of to scrap it, because we do acknowledge over time. Look, I at a point benefited from a cocoa scholarship. My grandfather farmed cocoa. Where I come from, we farm cocoa. And so I benefited from it in Bishop Herman College to some extent. And it was based on need at the time. And I do agree that for the sake of not just equality, but equity, like you mentioned, if someone already has 10 and you add 10 to that, you are not creating equity, because then the person who has nothing also comes on the scale of 10, and now there's still a disparity. So what kind of changes do you think we need with free SHS? And I think the communication has been the problem, where some people say, oh, this means scrapping, or this means this or that. Do we need it to be reviewed?
In fact, over the weekend, I read from the Daily Graphic online that the Minister of Education reiterated the point that the government have had over the years, that if you review the policy, you are scrapping it. And I think that is disingenuous, because the policy, since its inception, I've gone through certain reviews. Remember, we started with the double track. Now we're running a transitional calendar, a system whereby there is 2-year groups on campus and 1 is in the house. That is different from what we started with, the gold and then the green and then whatever thing that we were doing. So that is a review of a sort. Again, those who supply the food, there are challenges with national buffer stocks system. Now there's a new model that have been adopted to ensure that food supply still continues. That is a review. So if anybody talks about a review and thinks it's cancellation, it's just being political. We need to review the policy in terms of its funding mechanism. And I think I've said this on several platforms. What you need to do is to create another source of income for the policy. So you have 60% coming from government coffers, including that of the oil resources. And then you have an additional 40% coming from somewhere. What I would want to state emphatically is that 40% can come from anywhere. It could be contributions from parents. It could be a certain kind of tax that can be, I know people don't like taxes, but it could be a certain kind of tax. Wherever we think we can get an additional stream of income that will support that one, the one that is coming from government, that should be the focus of any financial review that would accompany, or that has to come in terms of the policy. And I think that if any government, anybody in the education sector heading the system comes to Ghanaians and tell them that this is what government can offer, we want additional stream of income, so that when government 60% is not coming, the government would not have to staff our case in the school. The government would just have to now look at the 40% that is coming from the other source to support the provision of education in the school. And already underground, most of these parents are contributing, they are paying, they are financing the education of their wards. So what makes it difficult for a review that would capture that kind of contribution into that 40% resource that will be used to support the running of our schools? I think that is how it should go.
Right. Interesting perspectives you've brought to bear. Hold for me, Dr. Anti. Let me also bring in Professor Samuel Atintono. He is President, Principals of Colleges of Education, PRINCOF for short. Professor Atintono, a very good morning to you, sir. Hello, Prof.
Good morning.
It's good to have you join the conversation.
Hello, good morning.
I can hear you, Prof. Can
Happy
you
New
hear
Year.
me?
Good to see you too. Yeah.
Right.
Good morning to everybody and good morning to your listeners and especially my principals and everybody who's interested in education. Thank you for having me.
Right. Let me go straight for it. We've not had you from the start, so I'll just ask you for your basic assessment. When you look at education all through 2023, where do you feel we are at in terms of the basic level, of course, the secondary level, and the tertiary level? I asked same of Dr. Anti in terms of educational outcomes, and he scored this administration 4 over 10 from 2017 to 2023. I don't know whether you also do that, look at all those years, or you will just focus on 2023. But what would be your score? Where do we stand, educationally speaking?
I think from where I come from, I wouldn't want to put scores when I have not done any research to see that, okay, these are the benchmarks or the reference points, and therefore you are scoring in terms of outcomes, you are scoring in terms of input and so on. To be very fair, I wouldn't want to put any percentage on it. But I can say, well, we made some progress, but of course there are challenges with the system, which will therefore mean that from basic level, SHS, and the tertiary level, one of the things you would notice is that you see large numbers of people going into basic level SHS, and particularly from the tertiary space, I still think that we need more room to accommodate the large numbers of students that are coming from the SHS, largely because of the free SHS. Partly because at the tertiary phase, there hadn't been significant kind of, if you want, expansion that can accommodate the numbers. And active, we have many more students coming in, and yet I think our infrastructure needs to actually be expanded to be able to accommodate that.
All right. Now, you talk about many more students coming in. You heard Dr. Anti as well, I want to believe, talk about the fact that with free SHS, we've made it wholesale, and yet there are challenges because in some institutions, now principals or headmasters, head teachers, have to go through the back door, get parents to support with many things, including beds and all of that, because they want their children to fare well, and free SHS may not be taking care of that. Is that a similar situation in the colleges of education? Are you facing some of these problems as well?
I mean, in the colleges of education, the problem that we have, and we've articulated this over and over again, has to deal with that took place from 2018, 2019, converting them from the diploma to the degree status. It's a good thing. The curriculum is very good, but we didn't see, or we have not seen, very elaborate infrastructure in the colleges. So this created a problem for us, and we're still trying to manage it out to see how we can deal with it. For example, in terms of expansion in a residential facility, in terms of expansion in classrooms, there have been some modest kind of provisions of this, but we think that much needs to be done in order to position them as tertiary institutions.
Right. You say this about the positioning and all of that. Let's talk about the quality, okay? And not just, it cuts across the board from the basic level, secondary level, and that is where you get your input from the secondary level to the colleges of education. Yeah. One of the problems that people have had in terms of Ghanaian education has to do with the quality, not just of teaching, but also the quality of the products that we produce or the products that we put out. Would you say that on the back of the different policies that this government has implemented, at least from the secondary level, it is impacting the quality in any positive way at the tertiary level, specifically, not just tied to the colleges of education, but at the tertiary level broadly, from where you sit?
Well, from where I sit and what I see, it's a normal process. Once the institution that produces SHS products do not have the same inputs to produce the same results, you would expect this kind of differentiated kind of outcomes. For example, if you take the school in the peri-urban area, urban area, and typical rural areas, and of course, in Ghana here, we have had kind of experience of classifying or grading secondary schools into grade A, B, and C, then you should expect different results from all these grades. What it therefore means is that we should be able, and I look forward to see a situation where we have the same input or upgrading all schools to be at least at the basic level, a certain standard that everybody must have in terms of the teacher that you have, in terms of the teaching and learning material that you input into the classrooms. But if you have a school that does not have a laboratory and they are running science, and then you have one that have laboratory, but they are not even teachers, and I've seen that across the country, what we expect is that at the end of the process, in terms of the examination, when they are exiting, you will have different of products. And that's why we are having today, in some areas or some schools, you can consistently say these kind of schools produce quality, and it is because we have over focus on that kind of those level of schools. Teachers are good, they have the infrastructure to run. Then at the extreme end, our rural areas, you go there, you don't even have the teachers. You go there, you don't have the requisite kind of learning resources. What do you expect them to do? The performance will be bad. So we must ensure equity and fairness in terms of how we make educational provisions to all the institutions, especially at the secondary school level. Because until we support them, we will continue to have these differentiated outcomes coming from the SHS.
To you, Prof, and this should be of major concern. We have the teacher licensure exam, and of course there are complaints about it, but it's also come to stay in many ways. Many people, like Dr. Anti, feel it is the way to go to ensure that we have some mechanism in order to choose who qualifies to teach and who doesn't. But at the same time, we also know that just last year, 16,000 of our qualified teachers applied to the UK educational system, and that 10,000 of them, as of I think June last year, actually had been accepted. 10,000 of those applicants were granted certification to work in the UK. It makes no sense to train so many teachers, especially if we're going to lose all of them to other countries, and it's not just the UK. So what do you make of the brain drain and versus, all these exams we're making them sit? What do we do to maintain our teachers or retain them? What's your take?
It's a simple response. You notice typically in Ghana here, people leave the country for better, what you call greener pastures. And what I know typically is most of these teachers who are leaving now are seeking opportunities to see whether they can enhance their profession. Critically, it's about the payment system. A lot of them, as I said, went towards UK, and I was surprised that the UK system, they made provision for their accommodation, made provision for paying their salaries, which are, comparatively higher than what they will get in the country here. What it then means is that, for me, whichever way you do, some teachers will naturally still want to go out, even if you increase their salary to 100%. Why don't we produce and then export, if that's a way to go? There are still other teachers who will still want to be here if we enhance some of their conditions of improvement, but there's need to improve some of the areas. If you listen to that, some of the things that they talk about, and I'm surprised some are looking for laptops, which is a basic equipment to actually use. It shouldn't be something that it is a necessary tool for technology. And so for me, it borders on conditions of service, which can be done, but it also has to be the case that the government may have to take a second look. As I said, some will still go, even if improve their condition of service. What do? We don't have to sit back. We can then say, let's produce more, but have an arrangement with the government or UK or wherever they are going to, in a sense that we can then export them and not allow them to be going on their own, because currently the government spends a lot on it. The teachers that we train, and then for them to just go as and when they want with us not getting anything, I think for.
All right. Prof, we're grateful that you took the time to join us. Professor Samuel Atintono is President, Principals of Colleges of Education, PRINCOF for short. Let me come back to Dr. Anti. I'll wrap the conversation with you. I don't know whether you have a take on this, but in recent times, I believe it's Professor Kwate of ISA that I heard speaking on this matter. And he made mention of the fact that, yes, there are problems in terms of the conditions of service of teachers. Some are unemployed, some there are poor working conditions, among others. And he cited the case of the Philippines, where they have a quota system, where some of these teachers are allowed to go abroad and send remittances back to the Philippines. Of course, now I know there are moves to even tax Ghanaians who are out there and working so that they pay taxes to Ghana. I don't know, some may not be too happy about that, but what do you think about that? Is that the way to go, to have a quota system?
This is a very dicey issue for me, and it needs a lot of thinking through. The reason why I am a little bit skeptical with that approach is this. We have a teacher redeployment problem in Ghana. I think that is the reason why most people think that we don't have teacher shortages. You go to some of the classrooms and a whole school is being manned by 2 teachers in deprived areas in this country. So if you have not been able to deal with this problem of teacher redeployment, and you think that you would want to export teachers outside the country, it means that you are just putting your whole education system in a certain situation that you might not be able to recover in the years to come. So you need to first deal with your teacher deployment problem. Ensure that the rules, the motivational packages that are given to those who are supposed to go to some of these places. Because truly, when you go to some of the schools in the urban centers, you would see more teachers in the school as compared to those in the rural and then the deprived areas. So you have to do the redeployment thing very well and ensure that at least the teachers are everywhere in the classroom, 1 classroom to 1 teacher, possibly. The standard practice of 1 teacher to 35 students, you have achieved that. Then you can now think about you training teachers to export them. In the meantime, what you need to do is, as Prof said, you are paying these students allowances. So you are paying them to educate them. At the end of the day, when they leave the system, they are supposed to go and serve. They don't serve. They leave the country. So you are just pushing money into the system. You are not getting the needed returns. Your classrooms are empty in most parts of rural Ghana. You need to stop paying the allowance. Use the allowance to deal with the infrastructure you have at your colleges. Open up, allow a lot of people to enter the college of education so that I can train more of them. Put up certain packages in these deprived and rural areas. Simple accommodation, simple health system, and simple packages that will contain the young guy who is going to this place to stay for the next 3, 4, 5 years of his life. If you're able to do this with the money that you are using to pay the allowances, you will be able to get people to these rural areas and at the same time get people to enter your colleges of education. Then you can think about exporting the excess of teachers that you have trained over the years. But as it stands now, we don't have that liberty to do that. If you do that, in fact, with what is happening, I have said that within the next 4 or 5 years, we are going to have a serious crisis on our hands if nothing is done to deal with the extent to which people are leaving the teaching profession to seek for greener pastures elsewhere. Of course, you can't prevent anybody from leaving Ghana.
I see. So generally then, what would be your expectations from government by way of education in 2024? What do you want to see happen? Remember that we have an IMF program that we're executing, which also in a way ties the hands of this administration in terms of what they can do and what they cannot do. We see an increment in taxes and levies, the vehicle income tax, emissions levy, among others that likely will be introduced over time on the back of saying, what then can we expect? There are the infrastructural challenges, schools under trees, among others. There's free SHS to deal with. What will your expectations be?
So exactly the challenge with the IMS situation we have now. That is the reason why what you have to do as a government this year is to just tighten the loose ends of the policies that you have implemented. You have challenges with provision of textbooks in the basic school since you introduce your standard-based curriculum. You have challenges with provision of textbooks since you implemented the common core program. Get these things to the schools. You have challenges with the implementation of free senior high school. Get stakeholders to come together to think through a way forward. Tighten the loose ends of your policies. You are paying College of Education students allowances. Scrap it, replace with their student loan, and then use the money to do other things that are equally important within the sector. You are using your little money to support. You have introduced what you call the student loan system. You've scrapped the guarantor system, but people are not accessing the loans. What do? Make sure that you pay the loan on time. Put in mechanism for students to access the loan when they get admission. These are things that you need to do. You do not need extra money, extra fiscal space to do that. Create your own fiscal space within the education sector budget and then tighten the loose ends of the policies that you have implemented. You want to reform, you have decided to reform the assessment framework that we have. Make sure that the teachers are following suit. You want teachers to use technology. So, for example, you don't need to do this kind of buying a tablet for senior high school students when your basic education infrastructure is in this array. So these are the things that I'm expecting the government to focus on. If I'm supposed to advise the Minister of Education, all that I will tell him is that, look, you have done a lot of policies from 2017 to 2023. 2024, tighten up the loose ends, consolidate the gains, and then ensure that you eliminate policy incoherence and ensure policy consistency. If you're able to do this, you are going to handle or hand over a solid education system to whoever takes over from you. I think that should be the focus, of course, and then pay attention to the STEM and pay attention to the TVET.
Finally, though, as you give me your final words, what would you also say? There have been a number of industrial actions, UTAG among others, on the back of wages, low wages among others. In fact, there have been incidents where some of our universities have tried to bring in resources, human resource from other parts of even Africa, and have been turned down because our wage system is considered too low. What would you say on the back of that? Do we have any room to make that system any better, at least at the tertiary level?
Yes, I think one of the things that I commended the minister for is his ability to ensure that we had a smooth running of the academic calendar last year. And we need to continue to have that. I think a lot of the people, the workers within the tertiary space needs the needed attention that they deserve. Sometimes it is not the availability of money, it's how you handle these grievances, showing them respect, letting them understand the challenges that we are going through as a country and as a sector specifically. And when you are proactive with these things, I think we are all human beings. We understand, we are all in the system. We appreciate the challenges that are going on. And we'll be able to appreciate appreciate the concerns that will be raised by authorities. But when authorities take the posture of we have the power and we do what we want to do, then you will see the union leaders also coming out with the difficult posture. And then the end result is students are going to suffer. But I'm hoping that the minister will keep his composure like he did last year. He will continue to engage the leaders of the various unions in the tertiary space and be proactive in terms of the demands of these unions and associations, so that we will not have any turbulence in our tertiary education front this year specifically, because it's an election year. Any kind of strike and whatever it is will be negative publicity for his government. And I think that it's important for him to really be on top of issues when it comes to managing the labor force in the education sector.
Thank you, Dr. Anti. We're grateful that you took the time to join us this morning, sharing your thoughts, very well-informed thoughts on this sector. Of course, yesterday we spoke about education. Today we've yesterday we spoke about the economy. Today we've focused on education. Those who joined the conversation, Dr. Peter Anti, you just heard him. He's Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies, together with Professor Samuel Atintono, President, Principals of Colleges of Education. Now, up next, we're also going to explore, it's an electoral year, 2024, and a crucial one at that. What does the clergy, our men and women of the cloth, what do they expect from our political leadership as we gear up for another shot at elections? We'll be interacting with Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frimpong. He is leader of the Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa and a former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. That conversation up next on the AM show after the break. Welcome back on the AM show. And of course, we take a look at the clergy now and what their expectations are from government, especially in an electoral year. Joining us for this conversation, Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frimpong. He's leader of the Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa and a former General Secretary of the Christian Council. It's so good to have you once more, Rev. It's been a long time. I hope you've kept well. You've been well.
And I want to believe you and the Joy Multimedia family, you are also doing well. Have a very happy new year.
Same to you. We are trying, by God's grace. We are in there. At least we are alive, we're healthy. We thank God for his many mercies. So let's focus on this standpoint for just a bit. But before we even get here, I'd like to find out, it's an electoral year. What would be your assessment so far of how things have gone? We've had one election in 2020. This will be the second election. How did you feel Ghana fared in 2023? I just want your overarching view before we get into the main conversation.
Thank you for the opportunity. And if we can even go a little bit back, we've just celebrated our Constitution and our democracy, especially under the Fourth Republic. We have had 8 elections so far. Now, the stability our democracy has enjoyed so far, it seems to me is something that must encourage all of us, even though it has come with some challenges. And as we had a whole day holiday, we as a people must keep reflecting on how we have performed under the Fourth Republic. And maybe that brings us to last year and where we are now. Now the major political parties are picking their leaders. The major 2 have done with their presidential, now working on their parliamentary. Unfortunately, the horror of political violence or electoral violence keep visiting us. And it is something that I pray and hope as a nation, we will be able to work together, that the horror of electoral violence will be a thing of the past, especially as we go through the 2024 general elections.
Interesting perspectives. So let's look at the clergy and what your expectations would be. Even today, looking at some of the messages that have come through, some have also pointed accusing fingers at the clergy itself and its failure to live up to expectation when it comes to calling leadership to account, and the clergy itself, in terms of its leadership, also feeding into that. How well would you say the clergy itself, you men and women of the cloth, and maybe by extension other religious leaders, how do you feel you've fared in holding Ghana together, in living up to the high standards that society expects of you?
Let me say that, and in all humility, my colleague ministers of the gospel, we are accountable to God, first and foremost, but we are also accountable to the people and the nation we serve, or we have been called to serve. As long as this message, the sentiment you have just expressed, keep coming, it seems to me the church leaders and the various Christian organizations must pause and evaluate our own approaches and impact on national issues. We need to evaluate the approaches and impact, especially on our own advocacy on national issues. The more people call us into this area that you are not doing well, we are not doing well, instead of defending ourselves again and again, let us be humble enough and evaluate. We have been doing both private and public engagement with our leaders. Now, if anytime the church tilts towards behind the scene engagement, and we must accept that we are representative voices of our people. And so if the church keeps saying we are doing behind the scene engagement, we are doing background engagement, and the people who are yes, we are accountable to God, but the people who have made us who we are, those who have voted for us, those who paid us, keep coming to us that we want to see more of you, I will humbly admit that we may have to reduce the defense mechanism and hear what exactly the people are looking for. And if need be, if we need to do more of our public engagement on national issues, we need to accept the challenge. Even though I will admit that we are doing our best, but as long as our people keep coming, I have heard this sentiment on several media platforms, and I have come to a point that it's better we evaluate our performance and find out new things we can do better, best practices that we can adopt, rather than maybe defending ourselves again and again that we are doing well. If the people who pay who elected us keep coming to us, we need more of you, we must accept the challenge.
All right. There is also this bit as we get into the talk about the electoral year we find ourselves in, 2024. It is momentous because on the one end, the NPP seeks to break the 8 for the first time in the Fourth Republic. You also have the NDC hoping to achieve what has never been achieved before, a former president becoming president again. So it is a crucial election. But not only that, it is also crucial for Ghanaians because our economy is where it is. We've gone to the IMF. Inflation is where it is. Education is where it is. Infrastructure is where it is. People have so many things they are looking for and looking at on which basis they are going to vote. But then you look at this critical issue of overspending in electoral years. And already we've seen that tendency over time. Some have said that for a government or a country under an IMF program, we are not spending like we have a debt overhang. We're spending still like, nobody's business, as though nothing had happened. What would be your quick thought on that before we get into monetization of our politics, the EC, and what your expectations would be for a year like this. Overspending. What would be your words to leadership of our country, political leadership, on that?
You won't even separate monetization from the process, but it's part of the issue you are raising. The president of our dear nation has come out publicly telling us that we are in crisis. He has said it how many times? The unfortunate thing, it seems to me, that our leaders, and here I'm talking about those in government, the MPP government, the way they go about things sometimes don't suggest to me, ordinary Ghanaian, that we are a nation in crisis, especially when it comes to, how there are delegates, meetings, and what you hear, and demonstration of money and wealth. And if those in government gives us this impression, and you come back to us that we are in crisis, the impression is, no, maybe there's huge money sitting somewhere, only few people have access. Majority of us, ordinary Ghanaian workers, farmers, are rather being denied that resources. And so now we have a long way to go. Number one, that they've admitted we are in crisis, but their actions, the way they go about things, must also confirm. In fact, we have had some Africa countries that are also with us in IMF, and their presidents are cutting, and they are cutting expenditures, and the presidents are demonstrating that you are not having this, we are not having that. Here is like the ordinary Ghanaian, especially when they started with this haircut, that pensioners' money can be cut, can be delayed, but monies that should go to state agencies and government agencies and party officials, when they are running around, and some of them are running around with state resources, whether they buy their own fuel, I don't know. But when you find what is going on in communities and how they are demonstrating wealth, it's a contradictory position that I pray and hope senior officers in government and the party must address. It's something that if they want us to believe that we are in financial crisis, they end up betraying themselves, that we are not. If we are in crisis, ordinary Ghanaians are in crisis. Those in government are not. They are living in a different world.
Those in government are not. They are living in a different world. Of course, you've also stated that sometimes the actions of this administration makes you wonder whether we are a nation in some financial crisis, because it appears like some would say the economy of those in power is very different from those who are not in power, or the ordinary people. But speaking of which, you've already started talking about it, the monetization of our politics. I want you to lump them together so that it doesn't come across as being too separate. There is the very dangerous monetization of our partisan politics, which is becoming very problematic, because now it is about people asking who is the highest bidder? How much can you give me? And the politicians are also willing to operate with means, fair or foul, to provide that. In other words, what it then means is we are not getting leaders. We are getting, in some instances, only the people who can afford to pay to get themselves into leadership. There is also the standpoint of corruption. I want you to fuse these two together. And what it is doing, the havoc it is wreaking on our national life. And it feeds into the conversation about paying for votes. What do you make of these two? What are your expectations of government on that front?
I am old enough, at least I have seen under the Fourth Republic all the 8 elections. I must admit that we are heading towards danger. We are heading towards a challenge that I don't know who will make the intervention. It's a problem for the two leading political parties. You don't have CPP and the others having challenges. And even the two leading political parties, when they are in government, how they approach this issue is completely different when they are in opposition. You find that problem with parties in government, where now people, the highest bidder becomes the leader, either president, party official, or member of parliament. They end up enslaving themselves. You see, you give me impression that if I vote for you, you will make my life something better. And you start from somewhere. Now you attend my funeral, you attend my wedding, you pay my children's school fees. If I need money to roof my building, I can fall on you. That is how they start. And the impression they give to delegates. And so now people say, no money, no vote. Now, after voting, you must prove yourself faithful. And we all know how much our members of parliament are paid at the end of the month. And so already you are in debt. Some of them pick loans from banks. Some of them sell their properties. So you already have bills to pick. And now everybody is coming after you, pay my children's school fees, my funeral, my wedding. And so at the end of the day, you must still look for extra money, even if what you have is enough. Already you've emptied your investment, and now the pressure is coming upon you. How sincere you want to be, you are trapped into these corrupt practices. We need to address it, whether the state will find our election, whatever be the case. We need men and women of integrity who will be sincere with voters, that I can give you X to support you. I can afford this. And the parties must build that discipline. They must ask themselves, where are our people, those who are becoming party chairmen and all that? Where are they bringing the money? They must be worried. At the end of the day, they are building their parties. They are not building the nation. People are looking for money to pick their bills, and you go to the people, their roads have not been fixed, they don't have water, and even if you do whatever within 8 years, you still hear the people blaming you. Please build the nation. Allow your people to come and build the nation rather than building themselves, picking their bills, paying the loans they have taken, and picking lifestyles that is too much for them. That to a point that they come to power and they throw away their earlier SIM cards and they run away from the people they have promised them. So all of them becomes liars. Immediately they assume office. Not that they don't want to be faithful. They can't meet the standard they have created for themselves. We need sincere leaders who will say, I'm sorry, I can't afford this, but I'm prepared to serve this nation. At the moment when parties are in power, that dignity, that integrity, they lose them immediately. And I don't know what the political parties can do. At the moment, NDC is not giving much money as MPP, but we don't know how the future will look like. When they were in power, they were demonstrating wealth. Today, they are crying and they are calling for help. Today, MPP is demonstrating high level of money, and let's pray and hope that somebody will tell them we can't continue like this as a nation.
Maybe you are one of those that will be expected to tell them. But on the standpoint of corruption, really, I just want to find out, from where you sit, yes, we have the Office of the Special Prosecutor and all of that, but there's no real prosecution. Do you feel enough is being done to stem the tide of corruption? The reports, the surveys that we've seen over time throughout this administration do not point in that direction, that much has been achieved. But it got me thinking today when I saw the story of Betta Edu, the minister, interestingly, in Nigeria for humanitarian affairs and poverty alleviation. So the poverty minister in Nigeria. She's been cited as the first person to be, mired in any sort of corruption. Her account is being investigated based on an order she gave for a certain sum of money, 585 million naira, the equivalent of $640,000 or 500,000 pounds, to be paid into a certain account. She's only 37 years old. And sometimes I ask myself as well, what does that say about youth leadership? Because we've been told, and I do want to see more of that, young people in position. But sometimes too, when you give some of the young people the opportunity, these are some of the things we see. So those two perspectives. Is our administration doing enough in terms of fighting corruption? At least we see some examples from other countries. Ghana, not so much. Your take?
It's not a matter of age. Who is mentoring these young people you are talking about? Now, if those mentoring them have shown them that the best way to go is to grab, and the more you grab, the more powerful you become. Whether old or young, it doesn't make any difference. To me, from where I stand, your viewers may have to forgive me. I don't think we are serious when it comes to corruption fight. I don't think so. I'm sorry. Including this administration, current administration. What I have rather seen is they protect their own. Of course, it's not just MPP. I have served under all these two major political parties that have served as NDC, MPP. And NDC also did not give me impression they were serious fighting corruption. They are all protecting their own. I'm so sad as a Ghanaian when it comes to this Galamsey fight. With all the risk some of our media friends, multimedia, your people have taken, sometimes they've been attacked deep in the bush, bringing all this inside what is going on deep in our forest to get to all of us. We watch it how many times? And yet somebody wants me to believe that Ghana as a country, we cannot fight corruption. Not even Ghana has reached a point that the destruction of our forests, destruction of our water bodies, destruction that media houses have risked their lives and entered into this terrain, life and death terrain, being pointed at sometimes with guns by military people and other security people. Ghana wants me to believe that this fight is beyond us. My conclusion is we are not serious with the corruption fight. And that is why we are having this. And you see, when they appear before Parliament, a Public Accounts Committee, it is not only those at the top, district chief, executive, state agencies, and you look at amount of money that being reported that have not been accounted for. And we look at the amount of money that we queue in the offices of IMF for support. And you say, why are we doing this to ourselves? And the monies we are talking about, some are loans that will be paid 20, 30 years. A country that creates problem for our children to solve in future. We shouldn't be a nation that create problem today that children should come and solve tomorrow. And as long as our leaders protect their own, I don't know how long it will take us. If we want to fight corruption, it must start from the inner circles. And we need leaders who will say, I appointed you, but you have disgraced us, you have disgraced the nation, you don't qualify to be here. The next morning, pack a leave. I don't think I have that impression as a Ghanaian. Maybe I'm not seeing right because of the lens I'm wearing. But Ghana as a nation, as I see it, we are not serious with the corruption fight.
Now, in this electoral year, there are different cogs in the wheel that will guarantee that we have a free, fair, transparent election, a peaceful one or otherwise. I'm talking about the Electoral Commission. I'm talking about the political parties. I'm talking about political actors. And I'm talking about the rest of us who will likely vote or who have political opinions. What would your expectation be from these different groups in terms of what they do and what they refrain from doing? What is your take?
There's a fundamental understanding that every son and daughter of this country must get, and we must get it very fast. Peaceful, credible election is a collective responsibility. I've had the opportunity to see and have elections in other Africa countries, DR Congo, their last election before the recent one, and Angola and Liberia. And I've come to this conclusion that credible, peaceful election. In fact, our own country, Electoral Commission, the last election, for instance, gave the Alliance for Christian Advocacy official accreditation to monitor the election. We had 100 pastors. We spread ourselves all over the country. Even before that, I was Christian Council General Secretary. We were all over the country. So I have been a key observer within and outside. Now, if you leave credibility and peace of election only in the hands of Electoral Commission, we'll be in trouble. All of us must be on board. What it means is that these politicians have made huge investments, and therefore they are prepared to manipulate everybody on the line of duty, everybody, security agencies, all of them can cheat. NDC can cheat, MPP can cheat, and they all want to cheat. They all want to manipulate the system. So all of us must rally together and say, this is the only nation we have. If you're a security agency and we assign you responsibility, you don't do it for your pocket, you don't do it for whoever, you do it for Mother Ghana. If you are EC, you should not have any favorite sons and daughters. DR Congo finished election and they're having challenges. Thank God Liberia is
Hello, Doc. Doc, can you hear me?
It's okay. So we all had challenges. Even recently, Kenya held us in our legal system. Our legal system must be free and fair and open for everybody, especially my colleague, faith-based leaders, pastors. Please, let us rally ourselves together. These people are sitting in front of us. And some of them, even they don't fear God, they want to manipulate pastors. They do that through gifts. They send you certain gifts, and you must know where to be happy with such gifts. If the gift is supposed to silence your prophetic voice for the sake of peace and credibility, for the sake of our future, go out, take their envelopes, give it to the church as offering, and speak truth to power. Sometimes you have our pastors who must be out there, doing advocacy for peace, and then they keep quiet. So why are you quiet? You are holding high position. You are head of church. You must be out there for the sake of the ordinary weak people. We lost 8 people in the last election. Some even during a registration exercise somewhere in Brahafo, we lost a young man. Pastors must be on board on the streets and journey with the nation, journey with the process, and protect our people and our friends in the media. At the moment, this broadcast thing is also another huge problem. Please, let us think about the future of our country rather than serving these MPs who be in office for 8 years, presidents who be in office for 8 years. Serve Mother Ghana, fear God. And the MPs must take decisions of the politicians and political parties. Please respect yourself. You all want to serve Ghana. So why are you disgracing yourself, your public utterances, assigning people to destroy others' posters, and some are burning party offices? The challenge is both inter and intra. They destroy their own internal party as materials, and then they do the same with others. Let our politicians make a conscious decision to respect themselves. My political opponent should not be my enemy. This impression that political opponents are enemy is a sign that our democracy and our political system is immature. We must grow. After more than 30 years under the Fourth Republic, our politicians must understand and they must make a conscious decision that my political opponent is not my enemy, that I must go out for him or her to destroy.
From the EC specifically, would you say that in this electoral year would require even more from them in terms of elections that are credible, free, fair, transparent, looking at the political climate we have?
Definitely. And let me also say this. The last election, the EC put up a team as eminent advisory committee. I was a member of the advisory committee. And because of what I do, I've had opportunity to attend IPAC meeting as observer for some time now. So I know the conversations that we have at IPAC meeting, and then what the kind of meetings that EC have been having with us. The recent district election presented a challenge. I felt, even though the EC and the Adia sister have been doing their best, but it seems to me what we observed during the recent district election suggests to me that EC must maybe go to the drawing board, that we don't get even 1% of shortage of materials. This area we're not ready, and that kind of thing. I pray and hope, knowing how the feelings are, EC must avoid such excuses. We don't need to give that. And then we must, I'm happy NDC is coming back to IPAC, but some of the issues we must stretch, EC must stretch our patience, whether we use indelible ink or not. Let the education be very thorough. They may have clear and clean conscience, but we must also know that we are in an election. And some of them deliberately, they wage psychological warfare. Deliberately, even when they understand the issue, they go to the public, the masses, and create impression that the world is coming to an end for us. And therefore, if you also don't do the education well, not only with them at the boardroom, but also in media, that why are you saying we are not using indelible ink for everybody to understand? And all that we hear is, bam, 2024, we will not use the indelible ink. The conscience may be right, you may be clean, but knowing that other people, sometimes even they have decided they will not agree with you, you give them cause to raise tensions and then let people get impression that the EC want to do something untoward. So I'm calling about transparency and public education. They are doing well, but they can raise, they uplift their game. Public education, not only sitting in Accra, but in the rural areas, in the north, every part of Ghana, east, south, every corner, carry the whole nation along. Let us not give any impression or grant even space for the politicians, MPP or NDC, to move around and raise red flags for the EC. And I know they'll do a good job, but we should not only wish for it, we must act for it. So I don't wish that anybody EC, for security agencies, we will be judged not by our intentions, but about actions. So there are actions to me that they want to be sincere and transparent with the nation. I will never assume that they have the intention to do so. I want to see their actions confirming so.
All right. So, of course, I side with you on what you've said, but on the standpoint of the indelible ink, as a member of that eminent group, and of course, like you intimated, you get to sit with IPAC when they meet. The other school of thought has been that this indelible ink has been used since the inception of the Fourth Republic. And even if we have other means now, when we're talking about the biometrics and others of, that are going to be employed, we've seen how it failed in some instances during the district level elections. There was the case of some twins, among others, where it failed to work. Why not have the indelible ink as a supporting means of ensuring that someone has actually voted or not? What is your thinking on the use of indelible ink or the non-use of it in election 2024? Do you feel we are ready for that?
It's not even only the indelible ink. Even whether those with ID cards and others must continue bringing people to come and do justification for them. You realize, you see, we want to say now we have gone a long way. Let's stop that and let people come to our offices and have their ID card, voter ID card. That is also still an outstanding issue. The EC may have very clear intention. I've been to the meetings, I've listened to the argument. My concern is carry the nation along. Carry all of us. Some of us understand English, some of us don't understand English. I'm a classroom teacher, I teach at the university. I have some students, you start a statement, before you complete the statement, they know what you are going to conclude. They know what you have in your mind. Some students are sharp, my friend. Some students, you have to say and repeat and go around and give them extra examples before they will understand. But you must carry everybody in the class along. The sharp ones and the low learners, you must carry all of us along. So I have been to the meetings. I understand what they are trying to say. As long as I have my mother, my grandmother in my village who want to understand what are they saying, me, I don't understand. All that I'm saying is the NCCE and the Electoral Commission, the educational units, now the information service vans, we don't know where they are. So we make sure we can carry the ordinary who has never been to classroom before, that village person or a city person who is still asking questions. If you need to pay the media houses to do education, for the last district election, I didn't see much media campaigns, multimedia and others. I don't know how much either they did not give the advert educational material to you, or you did not play because you have other interest. But I didn't see much even on your platform. Now, the education side of the process is what I'm talking about. You may be right, but please carry the whole nation along. As they say in the military, leave no one behind. Never assume that as for these people, even if they don't understand, carry the nation to that national unity, national cohesion. Let us move as a nation, and we will get there together.
Now, you have also said, in respect of these elections that we can anticipate in 2024, that together we must end the horror of electoral violence. Of course, you also called for peaceful and credible elections. Electoral violence we have seen. We saw it in the last election as well. We've even seen it in some instances with political party primaries. In the recent one where a show host at Cape FM got assaulted. It was at the MPP's parliamentary primary in that area, in the central region. What would you say to electoral violence? We've seen different pockets of same, to the extent that in the last election, we had some people losing their lives, up to about 8 people. What would be your message to the political parties on that, briefly?
It's just affirming the statement you made. That horror, it's a horror, must end. And, there's a movies we call horror movies, films. And that's what I'm talking about. They have not come to the point that when they burn party offices, it's a horror. They have not come to a point that when they maim people, it's a horror. It's difficult to watch. It's like we are watching horror movies. You can't sleep. You can't close your eyes. If they can close their eyes, that violence, electoral violence, is a horror for some people. And if there are people who go to church and they go to mosques for the sake of their faith, integrity of their faith, when they meet, somebody must raise electoral horror on the agenda that it must stop. Any credible person among MPP, among NDC especially, must start advocacy internally that we will end electoral horror. And I will be an example. They must commit to it, and Ghanaians must also demand that electoral horror must end, and it must start now.
To conclude, so I would like you to look at two things as you conclude. One, what your expectations, we've already looked at those expectations, but if there are any other expectations of leadership, political leadership you've not espoused yet, I would give you the opportunity to talk about it. But something else I want your take on. We celebrated Constitution Day over the weekend, the 7th, and on that same day, some grouping led by Nana Kwame Bediako of the New Force had planned an engagement with the youth. I'm sure you heard of it. The likes of Malema, the likes of Peter Obi, the likes of Dr. Arikana, the likes of PLO Lumumba were expected there. And under rather bizarre circumstances, this event bordering on rights, civil rights, the right to the freedom of association, the right of assembly, among others, was infringed upon on a day when we celebrated the Constitution of Ghana, 1992 Constitution of Ghana. It does not mean that anyone subscribes to whatever political intent may have been aligned to that group. But the fact that government or this administration had granted access to the Independence Square, and then all of a sudden on D-Day, after people had been flown into the country and all of that, in a matter of hours to the event, they were told there was supposed to be some other government event, which never happened, by the way. What do you make of that? And what does that bode for our politics heading into elections?
Let me start from the second one, the New Force Challenge. And pray and hope, if some of our because they granted, like you said, they granted the facility. Then they came out that, oh, government is going to have a program there. As at now, we've all been opening our eyes and our ears to see that program. And I wish some of you, our media friends, would carry cameras and move to whoever, council it that, what kind of program happened that day that you didn't invite media to cover. At least we have not covered any program on that day. So we are coming to you. Will you update us for them to give their own Ghanaian explanation? If you promise us that we are going to have a program on that space, maybe they didn't invite multimedia, but now the program has must have been done. Maybe you didn't know.
Well, no program actually happened that day. Nothing happened there.
They didn't invite you, so you didn't know.
Well, we were there with our cameras, actually. Nothing happened.
Let somebody not you, but let somebody in government commit himself herself and explain to Ghanaians why we canceled this. We promised that, but we didn't do that. These are the insincerities in public administration and public service. But it's too early for us to blame anybody. Let somebody accept responsibility of the scenario we are discussing. And let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Now we don't know what happened. So let our media friends do a follow-up and let us get a feedback from them. But these are the winner-takes-all challenges we have in our constitution that must be addressed as we celebrate democracy and constitution. You give too much power to the president, that one person power from above kind of thing. He appoints everybody from security agencies, district chief executives, ministers, state agencies, state bodies from everywhere. So just one person can say, I'm not happy about this, I'll do something about it. He will not give all the details, but the mere fact that somebody is not happy, so be it. That constitutional review that has remained in our shelves is a shame. We won't admit, how can we have a country that has such discrimination in a monument of workers? That have the whole Article 71 making some special people, whether they are MPs, what academic background do they present to become members of MP? 4 years, and you have special package for them as they exit. People will stay in medical field, universities, how many years? And they are living, they can't afford a small brand new car, they can't afford Transaco, where people are now buying 2 trays and even dash some to others. So there's a problem with our constitution. We were coming up from a revolution. And so we did a constitution that favored that era. Right. The environment has changed. And we are still holding on to some of this winner takes all. My last bit is the promises they are making. Friends, as you keep promising Ghanaians heaven and earth, remember, after the election, we will hold you accountable. And we don't want a situation where after the election, the very promises you have given on campaign platforms, you come and say Ghanaians talk too much. If you don't want us to talk too much, don't promise us too much. But if you promise us that when you come, you fix the road after the election, the chiefs, pastors, media, we will demand it. If you say you protect our water bodies after election, we will demand it. And don't come and hate anybody. Don't say any church, any pastor is too political. We are demanding accountability. If you are not ready to do it, don't come out and say it. If you say it, you must mean it. As they do campaign, they must mean what they say and say what they mean.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frimpong, for joining us today for this conversation. Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frimpong is leader of the Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa, and he is a former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. He joined us for this conversation, what the clergy expects of government, of political leadership in this year. But right when we return from the break we're about to take, we'd like to hear from you on all these discussions we've had. We've spoken about education. We've spoken about the clergy and what their expectations are in this electoral year. We also put out that question on social media, Joy News on Facebook. What do you think is the number one cause of poverty in Ghana? Some of you have sent very interesting remarks. You can also call in when we return and share your thoughts on that or the other matters we've been discussing. Just mind you, no matter where your political slant is, season your words. Don't come insulting anybody. Make your point and go your way. We'll be back after the break.
And baller management. You go to Accra Central, everybody is putting refuse everywhere. Post office, AMA, I was there on Friday. There's nothing, the mayor of Accra, Elizabeth Kwachu Saki, is not doing a good job. The environmental, nothing is working. How can we live in a country where there are no public dustbins? Where are people supposed to put the baller or refuse? And yet we're promoting year of return, beyond the return. So the tourism minister, wow, all of them are not doing their job. And I and a lot of people are so angry, they dare to take us for granted. This level and just keep Ghana filthy. Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, you have plastics flying in the car park. It's against a metal rail. There's a bag of trash on the floor, on the ground. Nobody, and the art center is right opposite, right next to it. And opposite the art center, there's a trotro station. All the trotro stations and taxi stations put their refuse on the bare ground. Black bags on the ground, tied, food wrappers. You go to Circle, trotros arrive and just throw the refuse from the car baller on the street.
Right.
I mean, we all deserve a better management. I mean, at least for them the politicians to take us for granted and to keep Ghana this filthy. It's so insulting, and it just tells us we're not sophisticated enough, and I'm very disappointed, whether it's NDC or NPP, Nana Akufo-Addo, very, very disappointed, because an educated man, and we expected better from him. President Mahama either didn't do a good job. So, as Ghanaians, we're not angry enough.
All right.
If there's baller on the streets of Ghana, and we're all driving through it, going to town, you go to Seto, refuse everywhere. Anybody comes to Accra and puts their bed under the bridge and thinks they can live there.
Right.
And bath there. What is this? Ghana, I don't want this Ghana that I'm living in.
No, Fabia, and none of us does. For the sake of time, I would have to get to other callers. And of course, you might want to also look at the Sanitation and Water Resources Minister, currently, Madam Frida Prempeh. And we do recall the president said that Accra would be made into the cleanest city in Africa. We have a caller from Adenta, I believe. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
What's your name, please?
Albert Kweku Brampa.
Albert?
Yes, Kweku Brampa. Brampa, B-R-A-M-P-H.
Right. What are your thoughts for us, briefly, sir?
That's in respect of electricity company of Ghana. First caller spoke about leadership. I've been monitoring you for the past 1 year. Set of you in present should have been a leader, but you won't contest because we have seen honest in you. There are people who, for the fact that they have money, they can contest in winning an election. They represent you. Even if you campaign against them, you become enemy. They even targeted you to the extent that you can be killed in this our Ghana. Let me take you to my place, North Dine constituency. I come from Chirukwe. We have a place called Zanukope. We have a Brana Tonu. We have a Choco. All these places, you can walk 2 hours before you reach. You climb the hill, descend before you go and meet the River Dine. Look, these floods, this dam sewage, it has affected as the farmlands, being cassava, sugarcane, sweet potato, look at vegetables, even animals, goats and sheep and cows were taken over by the flood water. But there have not been a single statement either from the MP of the area, DC of the area, even you, the media, because the place is not accessible. No car can go there, so nobody is ready to go there. To go and report. I have gone there.
You say this is North Dine, right?
North Dine constituency. Right. I have gone there.
I think is it South Dine that is Roxanne Nelson?
North Dine is different from South Dine.
No, I get it. I'm just saying that.
Pando, that is before Pando. Amfwe from Amfwe, Bume, Vafu, Chirukwe, Wuchuta, Yoranu. Those are the places I'm calling. Bodogu, those are the North Dine. Wuchuta. I am saying that if you go to Wuchuta, it affected them. If you go to Amfuega, Bume, it affected. But nobody still, because the journalists cannot walk 2 kilometers. Sorry, 2 hours. About almost 7
Who is the
kilometers.
member of parliament for North Dine?
It is Tete, Jocelyn Tete.
Right.
Jocelyn Tete is our MP.
Right.
So I am saying that a person like who is honest, he won't contest for a position and lead a people mindful like us. And we have people who are leading us because of the fact that they have money to manipulate and win an election. And that is why we are having all these problems. If not, you know yourself when we were in school. As a child, you can't bring energy home without your parents asking where did you get it from. Today, people, students go to university. You send your child to university, bring car, and you are happy that your son or your daughter brought a car, a vehicle. You will not question that of your children. Where do they go those things? Because you are paying school fees, you are buying shoes for everything for them. How will they come with their car? You are happy. That is why Ghana is where we are. Until we go back to that stupidity from foreign countries, that we should remove corporal punishment. When your child behaves in a way that you need to discipline, they say no. So now your child control you in the house. Even your own house, you give money. Your own house, you give money. Your child determine which food is cooked of prepare in the house. By the time you return, your wife and your daughter say will eat fried rice, would have prepared fried rice. While you are looking for a place to eat.
Right.
I leave this with you, my brother. Let us change our attitude. Let us go back to our forefathers, how they train us. You go to farm before you go to school. You come and go to all those things teaches us a great lesson how to struggle for your other family members. And now everybody of his own. Nobody fight for one another. Why? Because they have not been trained properly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. You can also call maybe and share your thoughts with us very briefly. We'll also take a few more messages shortly. We have Kosame from Nima. Sam, good morning to you. Quick thoughts?
Good morning, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm okay. Quick thoughts, sir.
Thank you. You know, I have been following you not today. I mean, to multimedia. You see, I've listened to Tony. I think I agree with you to some extent. But where I partly with him with when trying to advise the current administration, they try to bring you the past, they're bringing in the past administration. If something is going wrong, they are the leaders. They are those that they speak and their voices go far. If they want to advise the current administration, they should go straight to advise the current administration that what is going on is bad.
Right.
But if you're going to equalize and then equalization that, they are all the same, no, that means I don't know where the advice is going.
Okay.
Two, if you look at the previous administration, look at the number of people that were prosecuted under the previous administration. I can talk about the and I can talk about the one at the National Service Secretariat who was prosecuted under his own government, and so many others. And then come to this government, which one person that this government has been able to prosecute under this administration? Nothing. Two, I'm going to serious issue about politics in this country, about all what there's some are talking about sanitation. But look, Ben, you know my passion. My passion about the local government system. The system that is there in power, people with knowledge, with skills. All what Ghanaians need, Ben, is civil skills, civic knowledge, and civic disposition, so that we can take the right decision. And the assemblies are there to empower us and come to this thing.
All right.
So have to be able to deal with sanitation and other issues that confronting us locally.
Thank you.
We have dismantled the local government system, divided into pieces, so that everybody is working. The president has sent all the officers into office. Into his office, the president, so that he can manipulate them.
All right. Thank you, Kosame. Thank you, Kosame, for your thoughts.
Have a blessed morning, Ben.
Same to you, Kosame. Let's take some of your comments before, if we have any more time, we can take maybe one or two more calls, and that will be it. Citizen Ajenduzirim says poor leadership and governance. That's the number one cause of poverty in Ghana. Then we have James Agbeko Nutako, who says the system that we have has been hijacked by the few privileged in the society, thereby diverting the few resources which can be used to create an environment that will benefit the less privileged. And so you are talking of those who have the privilege of being in leadership. Azunga Adawina says poor leaders and not well-paid workers' salaries. I think that is what you mean. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning. It appears we've lost that caller. You can still call through 0302-211-691, extension 2. Let's know what's on your mind. You could be our final caller. Ro Clem says the high rate of unemployment is the cause of poverty. And of course, it's one of the leading causes. Can we get other comments? All right, this one says lack of sensible leadership. Well, I guess sometimes you just have to hit the nail on the head. We have Rosemond. Rosemond, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Offenso.
All the way from Offenso. Thank you for calling. What are your thoughts, Rosemond?
Yes, to me, I think the number one cause of poverty is our mindset.
Our mindset. Interesting.
Yes, because we are not ready to change. We are always blaming leaders. What are we also doing to reduce poverty in our lives?
Right.
Let's look at how we are glued to corruption. And we always think that anything that you can offer someone, you have to pay some money. And the person that you are demanding the money from, where do you expect that person to get the money from? So definitely it will cause poverty. If it is some small capital that the family is using to manage their family, and you want them to come and use it to pay to get a job,
right?
At the end of the day, it will cause poverty in that family.
Right. Okay.
We are also saying that we don't want anything that we produce in our country. We are always thinking that anything outside the country is the best. And therefore, we don't try to produce things in our own country and use them. And it is a sign of poverty. So this is my take on this.
Thank you for your take, Rosamond from Ofinso. Essien is our final caller. Essien, where are you calling us from? Hello, Essien.
Yeah, good morning. I'm calling from Elembele.
All right. Quick thoughts for us. You are our final caller. Very quick thoughts. We have to go.
Yeah, quick one. The first one I will speak about is corruption. And then it starts from the leaders, especially our President Akufo-Addo, and his leadership. We all know that you've dedicated so much power to the president. He appoints a EC, he appoints everybody in leadership. And then they feel like it is because it is he who appointed them, they do whatever they like. Recently, we know what the Electoral Commission has said about the indelible ink and what have you. If it was a divided way of putting power into the hands of people, they would have known that it is the people in power who put them into that power, but not the president. Number two, we are talking about is religious leaders. Religion has stepped up a lot in Ghana. I was listening to Professor Frimpong right now. And then when he was speaking, he spoke like a psychologist. Instead of him telling people in power what is wrong, he was trying to massage the situation, combining the NDC, the NDP. Look, some of this hypocrisy is what is killing us. It is what is bringing us into poverty. When we dedicate so much power to the leadership like the president, and then we have people like the clergy, and then people that we think should come and speak or advise the president, and they don't. Then it makes everything becomes like as if we don't know what you are doing in Ghana.
Okay.
And that is why this thing is happening. Poverty starts from when we started voting for people who are not honest.
Okay.
And that is why we are here today.
All right. Essien, we're grateful. Essien, Rosamond, all of you who took the time to call in. We're immensely grateful for those of you who sent in your responses as well on social media. We're grateful to every last one of you. And this is why we do the show, because of you, for God and country. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for having joined me this morning on the AM show. We promise you much more tomorrow morning from 6 to 10 o'clock. But up next, we have Joy News Desk. Do stay for that.